and show up product reading of Misalliance and Drew, and so I'll turn it over to you, introduce and start things.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Drew Bolander, and I am playmastering this reading of George Bernard Shaw's Misalliance, a collaboration between Instant Shakespeare and the Shaw Project. I'm not going to say too much more about it. This play is going to speak for itself, but let's introduce the cast in the order that I can see. So you're going to be surprised probably by my name calling, but we'll start today with Mick.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mick, and I'll be reading Johnny.
And now Rose.
Hi, my name is Rose Sengenberger, and I'll be reading The Passenger.
Clinton.
Hello, I'm Clinton Powell, and I'm reading The Aviator.
David.
I'm David Cedar. I'm reading Lord Summerhaze.
And Kelsey.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Herks, and I'll be reading Hypatia.
And Jordan.
Hi, I'm Jordan Tierney, and I'll be reading The Man.
And Dylan.
Hi, I'm Dylan MacArthur. I'll be reading Bentley Summerhaze, initials BS.
And Ben.
I'm Bennett Pollocky. I'll be John Tarleton, Nick's father.
And finally, Laura Hill.
Hello, I'm Laura Iris Hill, and I'll be reading Mrs. Tarleton.
All right. So without further ado, here is Misalliance by George Bernard Shaw. First, before I start reading, there is no act break written into this play, but we will be taking a 10-minute break about halfway through, and it's going to be clear when that is. All right. So, Act 1. Johnny Tarleton, an ordinary young businessman of 30 or less, is taking his weekly Friday to Tuesday in the house of his father, John Tarleton, who has made a great deal of money out of Tarleton's underwear. The house is in Surrey, on the slope of Hindhead, and Johnny, reclining, novel in hand, in a swinging chair with a little awning above it, is enshrined in a spacious half-hemisphere of glass which forms a pavilion, commanding the garden, and beyond that, a barren but lovely landscape of hill profile with fir trees, commons of bracken and gorse, and wonderful cloud pictures. The glass pavilion springs from a bridge-like arch in the wall of a house through which one comes into a big hall with tiled flooring, which suggests the proprietor's notion of domestic luxury is founded on the lounges of weekend hotels. Just through the arch at this corner stands a new portable Turkish bath, recently unpacked with its crate beside it, and on the crate, the drawn nails and the hammer used in unpacking. Bentley Summerhaze, one of those smallish, thin-skinned youths who from 17 to 70 retain unaltered the mental airs of the latter and the physical appearance of the earlier age, appears in the garden and comes through the glass door into the pavilion. He is unmistakably a grade above Johnny socially, and though he looks sensitive enough, his assurance and his high voice are a little exasperating.
Hello, where's your luggage?
I left it at the station. I've walked up from Hazelmere.
Oh, and who's to fetch it?
Don't know. Don't care. Providence, probably. If not, your mother will have it fetched.
Not her business exactly, is it?
Of course not. That's why one loves her for doing it. Look here, tuck away your silly weekend novel and talk to a chap. After a week in that filthy office, my brain is simply blue moldy. Let's argue about something intellectual.
No. Now, seriously, Bunny, I've come down here to have a pleasant weekend, and I'm not going to stand your confounded arguments. If you want to argue, go out of this and go over to the Congregationalist minister. He's a nailer at arguing. He likes it.
You can't argue with a person when his livelihood depends on his not letting you convert him. And would you mind not calling me Bunny? My name is Bentley Summerhaze, which you please.
What's the matter with Bunny?
It puts me in a false position. Have you ever considered the fact that I was an afterthought?
An afterthought? What do you mean by that?
I came after by both of my siblings.
No, stop. I don't want to know. It's only a dodge to start an argument.
Don't be afraid. It won't overtax your brain. My father was 44 when I was born. My mother was 41. There was 12 years between me and the next eldest. I was unexpected. I was probably unintentional. My brothers and sisters are not the least like me. They're the regular thing that you always get in the first batch from young parents. Quite pleasant, ordinary, do the regular thing sort. All body and no brains. Like you.
Oh, thank you.
Don't mention it, old chap. Now, I'm different. By the time I was born, the old couple knew something. So I came out all brains and no more body than is absolutely necessary. I am really a good deal older than you, though you were born 10 years sooner. Everybody feels that when they hear us talk. Consequently, though it's quite natural to hear me calling you Johnny, it sounds ridiculous and unbecoming for you to call me Bunny.
Does it? By George. You stop me doing it, if you can, that's all.
If you go on doing it after I've asked you not, you'll feel an awful swine. At least I should, but I suppose you're not so particular.
I'll tell you what it is, my boy. You want a good talking to, and I'm going to give it to you. If you think that because your father's KCB and you want to marry my sister, you can make yourself as nasty as you please and say what you like, you're mistaken. Let me tell you that except Hypatia, not one person in this house is in favor of her marrying you. And I don't believe she's happy about it herself. The match isn't settled yet. Don't forget that. You're on trial in the office because the governor isn't giving his daughter money for an idle man to live on her. You're on trial here because my mother thinks a girl should know what a man is like in the house before she marries him. That's been going on for 2 months now. And what's the result? You've got yourself thoroughly disliked in the office, and you're getting yourself thoroughly disliked here, all through your bad manners and your conceit and the damned impudence you think clever.
That's enough, thank you. You don't suppose I hope that I should have come down if I'd known that was how you felt about me?
No, you don't run away. I'm going to have this house with you. Sit down, do you hear?
Johnny slings him into the chair by the writing table.
That's the advantage of having more body than brains. You see, it enables me to teach you manners, and I'm going to do it too. You're a spoilt young pup, and you need a jolly good licking. And if you're not careful, you'll get it. I'll see to that next time you call me a swine.
I didn't call you a swine, but you are a swine, you're a beast, you're a brute, you're a cad, you're a liar, you're a bully. I should like to wring your damned neck for you.
Try it, my son. Fighting isn't in your line. You're too small, you're too childish. I always suspected that your cleverness wouldn't come to very much when it was brought up against something solid, some decent chap's fist, for instance.
I hope your beastly fist may come against a mad bull or a prize fighter's nose or something solider than me. I don't care about your fist, but if everybody here dislikes me, well, I don't care. I'm sorry I intruded. I didn't know. Oh, you beast, you pig, you swine.
All right, my lad, all right. Sling your mud as hard as you please. It won't stick to me. What I want to know is this. How is it that your father, who I suppose is the strongest man England has produced in our time—
You got that out of your halfpenny paper. A lot you know about him.
I don't set up to be able to do anything but admire him and appreciate him and be proud of him as an Englishman. If it wasn't for my respect for him, I wouldn't have stood your cheek for 2 days, let alone 2 months. But what I can't understand is why he didn't lick it out of you when you were a kid. For 25 years, he kept a place twice as big as England in order, a place full of seditious coffee-colored heathens and pestilential white agitators in the middle of a lot of savage tribes, and yet he couldn't keep you in order. I don't set up to be half the man your father undoubtedly is, but by George, it's lucky for you were not my son. I don't hold with my own father's view about corporal punishment being wrong. It's necessary for some people, and I'd have tried it on you until you first learned to howl and then to behave yourself.
Yes, behavior wouldn't come naturally to your son, would it?
Now you keep a civil tongue in your head. I'll stand none of your snobbery. I'm just as proud of Tarleton's underwear as you are of your father's title and his KCB and all the rest of it. My father began in a little hole of a shop in Leeds, no bigger than our pantry down the passage there. He has made himself—
Yes, I know. I've read it. The Romance of Business, or The Story of Tarleton's Underwear. Please take one. I took one the day after I first met Hypatia. I went and bought half a dozen unshrinkable vests for her sake.
Well, did they shrink?
Oh, don't be a fool.
No, never mind whether I'm a fool or not. Did they shrink? That's the point. Were they worth the money?
I couldn't wear them. Do you think my skin's as thick as your customers' hides? I'd as soon have dressed myself in a nutmeg grater.
Pity your father didn't give your thin skin a jolly good lacing with a cane.
Pity you haven't got more than one idea. If you want to know, they did try that on me once when I was a small kid. A silly governess did it. I yelled fit to bring down the house and went into convulsions and brain fever and that sort of thing for 3 weeks. So the old girl got the sack and served her right. After that, I was let do what I like. My father didn't want me to grow up a broken-spirited spaniel, which is your idea of a man, I suppose.
Jolly good thing from you that my father made you come into the office and show you what he was made of, or what you were made of. And it didn't come to much, let me tell you that. When the governor asked me where I thought we ought to put you, I said, make him the office boy. The governor said you were too green, and so you were.
I dare say. So would you be pretty green if you were shoved into my father's set. I picked up your silly business in a fortnight. You've been at it 10 years and you haven't picked it up yet.
Don't talk rot, child. You know, you simply make me pity you.
Romance of business, indeed. The real romance of Tarleton's business is the story that you understand anything about it. You could never explain any mortal thing about it to me when I was asked you. See what was done the last time. That was the beginning and the end of your wisdom. You're nothing but a turnspit.
A what?
A turnspit. If your father hadn't made me a roasting jack for you to turn, you'd be earning 24 shillings a week behind a counter.
If you don't take that back and apologize for your bad manners, I'll give you as good a hiding as ever.
Help! Help! Johnny's beating me. Oh, murder!
Don't be a fool. Stop that noise, will you? I'm not going to touch you. Shh, you shush.
Hypatia runs in through the inner door, followed by Mrs. Tarleton, and throws herself on her knees. Mrs. Tarleton is a shrewd and motherly old lady who has been pretty in her time and is still very pleasant and likable and unaffected. Hypatia is a typical English girl of a sort never called typical.
Lay, what's the matter? Don't cry like that. What's the use? What's happened?
You ill child. There, pet, it's all right. Don't cry. There. Johnny will go for the doctor and he'll give you something nice to make it well.
What has happened, Johnny?
Was it a wasp?
Wasp be dashed.
Oh, Bunny, that was a naughty word.
Yes, I know. I beg your pardon. That's all right. Johnny frightened me. You know how easy it is to hurt me, and I'm too small to defend myself against Johnny.
Johnny, how often have I told you that you must not bully the little ones? I thought you'd outgrown all that.
I do declare, Mamma, that Johnny's brutality makes it impossible to live in the house with him.
It's 27 years, Mother, since you had that row with me for licking Robert and giving Hypatia a black eye because she bit me. I promised you then that I'd never raise my hand to one of them again, and I've never broken my word. And now, because this young whelp begins to cry out before he's hurt, you treat me as if I were a brute and a savage.
No, dear, not a savage. But you know you must not call our visitor naughty names.
Oh, let him alone.
Oh, don't you interfere between my mother and me, do you hear?
Johnny's lost his temper, Mother. We'd better go. Come, Bentley.
Yes, that will be best. Johnny doesn't mean any harm, dear. He'll be himself presently. Come.
The two ladies go out through the inner door with Bentley, who turns at the door to grin at Johnny as he goes out. After choking and stamping for a minute, he makes the vestibule door. It opens before he reaches it, and Lord Summerhays comes in. Lord Summerhays takes in the situation and quickly takes the punch bowl from the sideboard and offers it to Johnny.
Smash it. Don't hesitate. It's an ugly thing. Smash it. Hard.
Johnny, with a stifled yell,
Feel better now. I know only one person alive who could drive me to the point of having either to break china or commit murder. And that person is my son, Bentley. Was it he? As the car stopped, I heard a yell, which is only too familiar to me. It generally means that some infuriated person is trying to thrash Bentley. Nobody has ever succeeded, though almost everybody has tried. Bentley is a problem which I confess I have never been able to solve. He was born to be a great success at 50, at the age of 24 at most. Excuse me. He was born to be a great success at the age of 24 at most. The domestic problem for me is how to endure Bentley until, blast it. He was born to be a great success at the age of 50. Most Englishmen of his class seem to be born at the great great successes at the age of 24. The domestic problem for me is how to endure Bentley until he is 50. The problem for the nation is how to get oneself governed by men whose growth is arrested when they are little more than college lads. But it doesn't really mean to be offensive. You can always make him cry by telling him that you don't like him. Only he cries so loud that the experiment should be made in the open air, in the middle of Salisbury Plain, if possible. He has a hard and penetrating intellect and a remarkable part of looking facts in the face. But unfortunately, being very young, he has no idea of how very little of that sort of thing most of us can stand. On the other hand, he is frightfully sensitive and even affectionate, so that he probably gets as much as he gives in the way of hurt feelings. You'll excuse me rambling on like this about my son.
You did it on purpose. I wasn't quite myself. I needed a moment to pull round. Thank you.
Not at all. Is your father at home?
No, he's opening one of his free libraries. That's another nice little penny gone. He's mad on reading. He promised another free library last week. It's ruinous. It'll hit you as well as me when Bunny marries Hypatia. When all Hypatia's money is thrown away on libraries, where will Bunny come in? Can't you stop him?
I'm afraid not. He's a perfect whirlwind, indefatigable to public work. Wonderful man, I think.
Public work. He does too much of it. It's really a sort of laziness, getting away from your own serious business to amuse yourself with other people's. Mind, I don't say there isn't another side to it. It has its value as an advertisement. It makes useful acquaintances and least valuable business connections, but it takes his mind off the main chance, and he overdoes it.
The danger of public business is that it never ends. A man may kill himself at it.
Or he can spend more on it than it brings him in. That's how I look at it. What I say is that everybody's business is nobody's business. I hope I'm not a hard man, nor a narrow man, nor unwilling to pay reasonable taxes and subscribe in reason to deserving charities and even serve on a jury in my turn. And no man can say I ever refused to help a friend out of a difficulty when he was worth helping. But when you ask me to go beyond that, I tell you frankly, I don't see it. I never did see it, even when I was only a boy and had to pretend to take in all the ideas the governor fed me up with. I didn't see it, and I don't see it.
There is certainly no business reason why you should take more than your share of the world's work.
So I say, it's really a great encouragement to me to find you agree with me. For of course, if nobody agrees with you, how are you to know you're not a fool?
Quite so.
I wish you'd talk to him about it. It's no use my saying anything. I'm a child to him still. I have no influence. Besides, you know how to handle men. See how you handled me when I was making a fool of myself about Bunny?
Not at all.
Oh, yes, I was. I know I was. Well, if my blessed father had come in, he'd have told me to control myself, as if I was losing my temper on purpose.
Bentley returns newly washed.
Hello, Commander. Have you come? I've been making a filthy, silly arse of myself here. I'm awfully sorry, Johnny, old chap. I beg your pardon. Why didn't you kick me when I go on like that?
As we came through Godalming, I thought I heard some yelling.
I should think you did. Johnny was rather rough on me. He told me nobody here liked me, and I was silly enough to believe him.
And all that comes of all the women have been kissing you and pitying you ever since to stop you crying, I suppose. Baby.
I did cry, but I always feel good after crying. It relieves my wretched nerves. I feel perfectly jolly now.
Not at all ashamed of yourself, for instance?
If I started being ashamed of myself, I shouldn't have time for anything else all my life. I say, I feel very fit and spry. Let's all go down and meet the Grand Cham.
Does Mr. Tarleton like to be called the Grand Cham, do you think, Bentley?
Well, he thinks he's too modest for it. He calls himself Plain John, but you can't call him that in his own office. Besides, it doesn't suit him. It's not flamboyant enough.
Flam what?
Flamboyant. Let's go and meet him. He's telephoned from Guildford to say he's on the road. The dear old son is always telephoning or telegraphing. He thinks he's hustling along like anything, when he's only sending unnecessary messages.
Thank you. I should prefer a quiet afternoon.
Righto. I shan't press Johnny. He's had enough of me for one weekend.
Not a bad idea, that.
What?
Going to meet the governor. You know, you wouldn't think it, but the governor likes Bunny rather. And Bunny is cultivating it. I shouldn't be surprised if he thought he could squeeze me out one of these days.
You don't say so, young rascal. I want to consult you about him, if you don't mind. Shall we stroll over to the gibbet? Bentley's too fast for me as a walking companion, but I should like a short turn.
Right you are. That'll suit me down to the ground.
Mrs. Tarleton and Hypatia come back just as the two men are going out. Hypatia salutes Summerhaze from a distance with an enigmatic lift of her eyelids.
Oh, Lord Summerhaze, I didn't know you were here. Won't you have some tea?
No, thank you. I'm not allowed tea. And I'm ashamed to say I've knocked over your beautiful punch bowl. You must let me replace it.
Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm only too glad to be rid of it. The shopman told me it was in the best taste, but when my poor old nurse Martha got cataract, Bunny said it was a merciful provision of nature to prevent her seeing our china.
That was exceedingly rude of Bentley, Mrs. Tarleton. I hope you told him so.
Oh, bless you. I don't care what he says, so long as he says it to me and not before visitors.
We're going out for a stroll, Mother.
All right. Don't let us keep you. Never mind about that crock. I'll get the girl to come and take the pieces away. There. I've done it again.
Done what?
Called her the girl. You know, Lord Summerhaze, it's a funny thing, but now I'm getting old. I'm dropping back into all the old ways John and I had when we had barely 100 a year. You should have known me when I was 40. I talked like a duchess. And if Johnny or Hypatia let slip a word that was like the old times, I was down on them like anything. And now I'm beginning to do it myself at every turn.
There comes a time when all that seems to matter so little. Even queens drop the mask when they reach our time of life.
Let you alone for giving a thing a pretty turn. You're a humbug, you know, Lord Summerhaze. John doesn't know it, and Johnny doesn't know it. But you and I know it, don't we? Now that's something that even you can't answer. So be off with you for your walk without another word.
Lord Summerhaze smiles, bows, and goes out through the vestibule door, followed by Johnny.
I wonder whether they laugh at us when they are by themselves.
Who?
Bentley and his father and all the toffs in their set.
Oh, that's only their way. I used to think that the aristocracy were a nasty, sneering lot, and that they were laughing at me and John. They're always giggling and pretending not to care much about anything. But you get used to it. They're the same to one another and to everybody. Besides, what does it matter what they think? It's far worse when they're civil, because that always means that they want you to lend them money. And you must never do that, Hypatia, because they never pay. How can they? They don't make anything, you see. Of course, if you can make up your mind to regard it as a gift, that's different. But then they'll generally ask you again, and you may as well say no first as last. You needn't be afraid of the aristocracy, dear. They're only human creatures like ourselves, after all, and you'll hold your own with them easy enough.
I'm not a bit afraid of them, I assure you.
Well, no, not afraid of them exactly, but you've got to pick up their ways. You know, dear, I never quite agreed with your father's notion of keeping clear of them and sending you to a school that was so expensive that they couldn't afford to send their daughters there, so that all the girls belong to big business families like ourselves. It takes all sorts to make a world, and I wanted you to see a little of all sorts. When you marry Bunny and go among the women of his father's set, they'll shock you at first.
How?
Well, the things they talk about.
Oh, scandal mongering.
Oh, no, we all do that. That's only human nature. But you know, they've no notion of decency. I shall never forget the first day I spent with a marchioness, 2 duchesses, and no end of ladies, this and that. Of course, it was only a committee. They'd put me on to get a big subscription out of John. I'd never heard such talk in my life. The things they mentioned, and it was the marchioness that started it.
What sort of things?
Drainage. She'd tried 3 systems in her castle, and she was going to do away with them all and try another. I didn't know which way to look when she began talking about it. I thought they'd all have got up and got out of the room, but not a bit of it, if you please. They were all just as bad as she. They all had systems, and each of them swore by her own system. I sat there. Apologies. Such modern day creeping in. I sat there with my cheeks burning until one of the duchesses, thinking I looked out of it, I suppose, asked me what system I had. I said I was sure I knew nothing about such things, and hadn't we better change the subject? Then the fat was in the fire, I can tell you. There was a regular terror of a countess with an anaerobic system. And she told me downright brutally that I'd better learn something about them before my children died of diphtheria. That was just 2 months after I'd buried poor little Bobby. And that was the very thing he died of, poor little lamb. I burst out crying. Couldn't help it. It was as good as telling me I'd killed my own child. I had to go away. But before I was out the door, one of the duchesses, quite a young woman, began talking about what sour milk did in her inside, and how she expected to live to be over 100 if she took it regularly. And me listening to her, that had never dared to think that a duchess could have anything so common as an inside. I shouldn't have minded if it had been children's insides. We have to talk about them. But grown-up people? I was glad to get away that time.
There was a physiology and hygiene class started at school, but of course none of our girls were let attend it.
If it had been an aristocratic school, plenty would have attended it. That's what they're like. They've nasty minds. With really nice, good women, a thing is either decent or indecent. And if it's indecent, we just don't mention it or pretend to know about it. And there's an end of it. But all the aristocracy cares about is whether it can get any good out of the thing. That's what Johnny calls cynical like. And of course, nobody can say a word to them for it. They're so high up that they can do and say what they like.
Well, I think they might leave the drains to their husbands. I shouldn't think much of a man if he left such things to me.
Oh, don't think that, dear, whatever you do. I never let on about it to you, but it's me that takes care of the drainage here. After what that countess said to me, I wasn't going to lose another child or trust John, and I don't want my grandchildren to die any more than my children.
Do you think Bentley will ever be as big a man as his father? I don't mean clever, I mean big and strong.
Not he. He's overbred, like one of those expensive little dogs. I like a bit of a mongrel myself, whether it's a man or a dog. They're the best for every day. But we all have our tastes. What's one woman's meat is another woman's poison. Bunny's a dear little fellow, but I never could have fancied him for a husband when I was your age.
Yes, but he has some brains. He's not like all the rest. One can't have everything.
Oh, you're quite right, dear, quite right. It's a great thing to have brains. Look what it's done for your father. That's the reason I never said a word when you jilted poor Jerry McIntosh.
I really couldn't stick it out with Jerry, Mother. I know you liked him, and nobody can deny that he's a splendid animal.
Aisha, how can you? The things that girls say nowadays.
Well, what else can you call him? If I'd been deaf or he'd been dumb, I could have married him. But living with Father, I've got accustomed to cleverness. Jerry would drive me mad. You know very well he's a fool. Even Johnny thinks he's a fool.
Now, don't begin about my Johnny. You know what annoys me. Johnny's as clever as anybody else in his own way. I don't say he's as clever as you in some ways, but he's a man at all events, and not a little squit of a thing like your Bunny.
Oh, I have nothing to say against your darling. We all know Johnny's perfection.
Don't be cross, dearie. You let Johnny alone and I'll let Bunny alone. I'm just as bad as you. There.
Oh, I don't mind your saying that about Bentley. It's true. He is a little squit of a thing. I wish he wasn't, but who else is there? Think of all the other chances I've had. Not one of them has had as much brains in his whole body as Bentley has in his little finger. Besides, they've no distinction. It's as much as I can do to tell one from the other. They wouldn't even have money if they weren't the sons of their fathers, like Johnny. What's a girl to do? I never met anybody like Bentley before. He may be small, but he's the best of the bunch. You can't deny that.
Well, my pet, if you fancy him, there's no more to be said.
Mother, do you think marriage is as much a question of fancy as it used to be in your time and father's?
Oh, it wasn't much fancy with me, dear. Your father just wouldn't take no for an answer. And I was only too glad to be his wife instead of his shop girl. Still, it's curious. But I had more choice than you in a way, because you see, I was poor, and there are so many more poor men than rich ones that I might have had more of a pick, as you might say, if John hadn't suited me.
I can imagine all sorts of men I could fall in love with, but I never seem to meet them. The real ones are too small, like Bunny, or too silly, like Jerry. Of course, one can get into a state about any man, fall in love with him, if you like to call it that. But who would risk marrying a man for love? I shouldn't. I remember 3 girls at school who agreed that the one man you should never marry was the man you were in love with, because it would make a perfect slave of you. There's a sort of instinct against it, I think, that's just as strong as any other instinct. One of them, to my certain knowledge, refused a man she was in love with and married another who was in love with her. And it turned out very well.
Does all that mean that you're not in love with Bunny?
Oh, how could anybody be in love with Bunny? I like him to kiss me just as I like a baby to kiss me. I'm fond of him, and he never bores me. And I see that he's very clever. But I'm not what you would call gone about him, if that's what you mean.
Then why need you marry him?
What better can I do? I must marry somebody, I suppose. I've realized that since I was 23. I always used to take it as a matter of course that I should be married before I was 20.
You've got to keep yourself fresh, to look at these things with an open mind.
Quite right. I always say so.
There's your father, and Bunny with him.
Keep young, keep your eye on me. That's the tip for you.
Bentley and Mr. Tarleton, an immense and genial veteran of trade, come into view.
You think you're young, do you? You think I'm old?
Of course you're old. Look at your face and look at mine. What you call your youth is nothing but your levity. Why do we get on so well together? Because I'm a young cub and you're an old josser.
Oh, that's all you know about it, my lad. How do, Patsy? That's my chickabiddy. Look at me. Look at these wrinkles, these gray hairs, this repulsive mask that you call old age. What is it? I ask you, what is it?
Jolly nice and venerable, old man. Don't be discouraged.
Nice? Not a bit of it. Venerable? Venerable be blown. Read your Darwin, my boy. Read your Weissman.
For shame, John. Tell him to read his Bible.
Now, what is the use of telling children to read the Bible when you know they won't? I was kept away from the Bible for 40 years before being told to read it when I was young. And then I picked it up one evening in a hotel in Sunderland when I had left all my papers in the train, and I found it wasn't half bad. Better than most halfpenny papers anyhow. If only you could make people believe it. But if you want to understand old age scientifically, read Darwin and Weissman. Of course, if you want to understand it romantically, read about Solomon.
Have you had tea, John?
Yes, and don't interrupt me when I'm improving the boy's mind. Where was I? The repulsive mask, yes. What is death?
John!
Death is a rather unpleasant subject, Papa.
Not a bit, not scientifically. Scientifically, it is a delightful subject. You think death's natural? Well, it isn't. You read Weissman. There wasn't any death to start with. You go look in any ditch outside and you'll find swimming about there, fresh as paint in some of the identical little live cells that Adam christened in the Garden of Eden. But if big things like us didn't die, we'd crowd one another off the face of the globe. Nothing survived, sir, except the sort of people that had the sense and good manners to die and make room for fresh supplies. And so, death was introduced by natural selection. You get it out of your head, my lad, that I'm going to die because I'm wearing out or decay. There's no such thing as decay to a vital man. I shall clear out, but I shan't decay.
And what about all the wrinkles and the almond tree and the grasshopper that becomes a burden and the desire that fails?
Does it? By George. No, sir. It spiritualizes. As to your grasshopper, I can carry an elephant.
You do say such things, Bunny. What do you mean by almond tree?
He means my white hairs, my repulsive mask. That, my boy, is another invention of natural selection to disgust young women with me and give the lads a turn.
John, I won't have it. That's a forbidden subject.
They talk of the wickedness and vanity of women painting their faces and wearing auburn wigs at 50. Well, why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't a woman allow nature to put a false mask of age on her when she knows that she's as young as ever? Why should she look in the glass and see a wrinkled lie when a touch of fine art will show her the glorious truth? The wrinkles are a dodge to repel young men. Suppose she doesn't want to repel young men. Suppose she likes them.
Bunny, take Hypatia out into the grounds for a walk. There's a good boy. John has got one of his naughty fits this evening.
Oh, never mind me. I'm used to him.
I'm not. I've never heard such conversation. I can't believe my ears. And mind you, this is the man who objected to my marrying his daughter on the ground that a marriage between a member of the great and good middle class with one of the vicious and corrupt aristocracy would be a misalliance. A misalliance, if you please. This is the man I've adopted as a father.
Hey, what's that? Adopted me as a father, have you?
Yes, that's an idea of mine. I knew a chap named Joey Percival at Oxford. You know, I was 2 months at Balliol before I was sent down for telling the old woman who was the head of that silly college what I jolly well thought of him. He would have been glad to have me back too at the end of 6 months, but I wouldn't go. I just let him want and serve him right. Well, Joey was a most awfully clever fellow and so nice. I asked him what made such a difference between him and all the other pups. They were pups, if you like. He told me it was very simple. They only had one father apiece, and he had 3.
Don't talk nonsense, child. How could that be?
Oh, very simple. His father...
Which father?
The first one. The regulation natural chap. He kept a tame philosopher in the house, a sort of a Coleridge or Herbert Spencer kind of car, you know. That was the second father. Then his mother was an Italian princess, and she had an Italian priest always about. He was supposed to take charge of her conscience, but from what I could make out, she jolly well took charge of his. The whole 3 of them took charge of Joey's conscience. He used to hear them arguing like mad about everything. You see, the philosopher was a free thinker and always believed the latest thing. The priest didn't believe anything because it was sure to get him into trouble with someone or another. And the natural father kept an open mind and believed whatever paid him best. Between the lot of them, Joey got cultivated no end. He said if he could only have had 3 mothers as well, he'd have backed himself against Napoleon.
Now, that's an idea. That is the most interesting idea, a most important idea.
You always were one for ideas, John.
You're right, Chickabiddy. What do I tell Johnny when he brags about Tarleton's underwear? It's not the underwear be hanged. Anyone can make underwear, anyone can sell underwear. Tarleton's ideas, that's what's done it. I've often thought of putting that up over the shop.
Take me into partnership when you do, old man. I'm wasted on the underwear, but I shall come in strong on the ideas.
You'll be a good boy, perhaps I will.
Now, John, you promised.
Yes. All right, Chickabiddy, don't fuss. Your precious Johnny shan't be interfered with. But I am getting sick of that old shop. 35 years I've had of it. Same blessed old stairs to go up and down every day. Same old lot, same old game. Sorry I ever started it now. I'll chuck it, try something else. Something that will give a scope to all my faculties.
There's money in underwear. There's none in Wildcat ideas.
There's money in me, madam, no matter what I go into.
Don't boast, John. Don't tempt Providence.
Rats! You don't understand Providence. Providence likes to be tempted. That's the secret of a successful man. Read Browning. Natural theology on an island, eh? Caliban was afraid to tempt Providence, and that's why he was never able to get even with Prospero. And what did Prospero do? Prospero didn't even tempt Providence. He was Providence. That's one of Carlton's ideas. Don't you forget it.
You are full of beef today, old man.
Beef be blowed. Joy to life. Read Ibsen.
He goes into the pavilion to relieve his restlessness.
Bentley, couldn't you invite your friend Mr. Percival here?
Not if I know it. You'd throw me over the moment you set eyes on him.
Oh, Bunny, for shame!
Well, who'd marry me, do you suppose, if they could get my brains with a full-sized body? No, thank you. I shall take jolly good care to keep Joey out of this until Hypatia is past praying for.
Johnny and Lord Summerhaze return to the pavilion from their stroll.
Welcome, welcome. Why have you stayed away so long?
Yes, I should have come sooner, but I'm still rather lost in England. Thank you. The fact is that as I've nothing to do, I never have time to go anywhere.
Paradox. Paradox. Good. Paradoxes are the only truths. Read Chesterton. But there's lots for you to do here. You know, you have a genius for government. You learned your job out there in Genghis Khan. Well, we want to be governed here in England, huh? Govern us.
Ah, yes, my friend. But in Genghis Khan, you have to govern the right way. If you don't, you go under and come home. Here, everything has to be done the wrong way to suit governors who understand nothing but partridge shooting, your English native princes, in fact, and voters who don't know what they're voting about. I don't understand these democratic games, and I'm afraid I'm too old to learn. What can I do but sit in the window of my club, which consists mostly of retired Indian civil servants? We look on at the muddle and the folly and amateurness, and we ask each other where a single fortnight of it would have landed us.
Very true. Still, democracy's all right, you know. Read Mill, read Jefferson.
Yes, democracy reads well, but it doesn't act well, like some people's plays. No, my friend Tarleton. To make democracy work, you need an aristocratic democracy. To make aristocracy work, you need democratic aristocracy. You've got neither, and there's an end of it.
Still, you know, the Superman may come. The Superman's an idea. I believe in idea. Read, what's his name?
Reading is a dangerous amusement, Tarleton. I wish I could persuade your free library people of that.
Hey, man, it's the beginning of an education.
On the contrary, it's the end of it.
Oh.
How can you dare teach a man to read until you've taught him everything else first?
Leave it at that. That's good sense. Anybody on for a game of tennis?
Oh, let's have some improving conversation. Wouldn't you rather, Johnny?
If you ask me, no.
Johnny, you don't cultivate your mind. You don't read.
Yes, I do. I bet you what you like. That page for page, I read more than you, though I don't talk about it as much. Only I don't read the same books. I like a book with a plot in it. You like a book with nothing in it but some idea that the chap that writes it keeps worrying like a cat chasing its own tail. I can stand a little of it, just as I can stand watching the cat for 2 minutes, say, when I've nothing better to do. But a man soon gets fed up with that sort of thing. The fact is, you look on an author as a sort of god. I look on him as a man that I pay to do a certain thing for me. I pay him to amuse me and take me out of myself and make me forget.
Wrong principle. You want to remember. Read Kipling, lest we forget.
If Kipling wants to remember, let him remember. If he had to run Tarleton's underwear, he'd be jolly glad to forget. As he has a much softer job and wants to keep himself before the public, his cry is, don't you forget the sort of things I'm rather clever at writing about. Well, I don't blame him. It's his business. I should do the same in his place. But what he wants and what I want are two different things. But I want to forget, and I pay another man to make me forget. If I buy a book or I go to the theater, I want to forget the shop and forget myself from the moment I go in to the moment I come out. That's what I pay my money for. And if I find that the author's simply getting at me the whole time, I consider that he's obtained my money under false pretenses. I'm not a morbid crank. I'm a natural man. And as such, I don't like being got at. If a man in my employment did it, I should sack him. If a member of my club did it, I should cut him. If he went too far with it, I should bring his conduct before the committee. I might even punch his head if it came to that. Well, who and what is an author that he should be privileged to take liberties that are not allowed to other men?
You see, John, what have I always told you? Johnny has much to say for himself as anybody when he likes.
I'm no fool, Mother, whatever some people may fancy. I don't set up to have as many ideas as the governor, but what ideas I have are consecutive at all events. I can think as well as talk.
Had you there, old man, hadn't he? You are rather all over the shop with your ideas, aren't you?
I'm not saying anything against you, Governor, but I do say that the time has come for sane, healthy, unpretending men like me to make a stand against this conspiracy of the writing and talking and artistic lot to put us in the back row. It isn't a fact that we're inferior to them. It's a put-up job, and it's they that have put the job up. It's we that run the country for them, and all the thanks we get is to be told we're Philistines and vulgar tradesmen and sordid citymen and so forth, and that they're all angels of light and leading. The time has come to assert ourselves and put a stop to their stuck-up nonsense. Perhaps if we have nothing better to do than talking or writing, we could do it better than they. Anyhow, they're the failures and refuse of business, hardly a man of them that didn't begin in an office, and we're the successes of it. Thank God I haven't failed yet at anything, and I don't believe I should fail at literature if it would pay me to turn my hand to it.
Hear, hear.
Fancy you writing a book, Johnny. Do you think he could, Lord Summerhaze?
Why not? As a matter of fact, all the really prosperous authors I have met since my return to England have been very like him.
No, that's an idea. That's a new idea. I believe I ought to have made Johnny an author. I've never said so before for fear of hurting his feelings, because after all, the lad can't help it. But I've never thought Johnny worth tuppence as a man of business.
Oh, you think you've always kept that to yourself, do you, Governor? I know your opinion of me as well as you know it yourself. It takes one man of business to appreciate another, and you aren't, and you never have been, a real man of business. I know where Tarleton's would have been 3 or 4 times if it hadn't been for me.
Well, who denies it? You're quite right, my boy. I don't mind confessing to you that all the circumstances that condemned me to keep a shop are the biggest tragedy of my modern life. I ought to have been a writer. I'm essentially a man of ideas. When I was a young man, I sometimes used to pray that I might fail, so that I should be justified in giving up business and doing something. I mean, something first class, but it was no good. I couldn't fail. I said to myself, if only I could go to just once to my chickabiddy here and show her a chartered accountant's statement proving that I'd made £20 less than last year, I could ask her to let me chance Johnny's and Hypatia's future by going into literature. But it was no good. First, it was £250 more than last year. Then it was £700. Then it was £2,000. And then I saw it was no use. Prometheus was chained to his rock. Read Shelley. Read Mrs. Browning. Well, it was not to be. Lord Summerhaze, I ask you to excuse me for a few moments. There are times when a man needs to meditate in solitude on his destiny. The chord is touched. He sees the drama of his life as a spectator sees a play. Well, laugh if you feel so inclined. No man sees the comic side of it more than I. And in the theater of life, everyone may be amused except the actor. You know, there's an idea in this, an idea for a picture. I pity young Bentley is not a painter. Tarleton's meditating on his destiny. Not in a toga, not in the trappings of the tragedian or the philosopher, in a plain coat and trousers, a man like any other man. And beneath that coat and trousers, a human soul, Tarleton's underwear.
I suppose it's a wife's partiality, Lord Summerhaze, but I do think John is really great. I'm sure he was meant to be a king. My father looked down on John because he was a rate collector and John kept a shop. It hurt his pride to have to borrow money so often from John, and he used to console himself by saying, after all, he's only a linen draper. But at last one day he said to me, John is a king.
How much did he borrow on that occasion?
Bentley?
Oh, don't scold the child. He'd have to say something like that if it was to be his last word on earth. Besides, he's quite right. My poor father had asked for his usual £5, and John gave him 100 in his big way, just like a king.
Not at all. I had 5 kings to manage in Genghis Khan, and I think you do your husband some injustice, Mrs. Dalton. They pretended to like me because I kept their brothers from murdering them, but I didn't like them, and I liked Dalton.
Everybody does. I really must go and make the cook do him a Welsh rabbit. He expects one on special occasions. Johnny, when he comes back, ask him where we're to put that new Turkish bath. Turkish baths are his latest.
Now that the governor has given himself away and the old lady's gone, I'll tell you something, Lord Summerhaze. If you study men who've made an enormous pile in business without being keen on money, you'll find that they all have a slate off. The governor's a wonderful man, but he's not quite all there. You know, if you notice, he's different from me, and whatever my failings may be, I'm a sane man. Erratic, that's what he is. And the danger is that someday he'll give the whole show away.
Giving the show away is a method like any other method. Keeping it to yourself is only another method. I should keep an open mind about it.
Well, has it ever occurred to you that a man with an open mind might be a bit of a scoundrel? If you ask me, I like a man who makes up his mind once for all as what's right and what's wrong and then sticks to it. At all events, you know where to have him.
That may not be his object.
He may want to have you, chap.
Well, let him. If a member of my club wants to steal my umbrella, he knows where to find it. If a man put up for the club who had an open mind on the subject in property of umbrellas, I should blackball him. An open mind is all very well in clever talky, but in conduct and in business, give me solid ground.
Yes, the quicksands make life difficult. Still, there they are. No use pretending they're not. They're wrong.
I don't know. You can draw a line and make other chaps toe that. That's what I call morality.
Very true. But you don't make any progress when you're towing a line.
Bentley, do go and play tennis with Johnny. You must take exercise.
Do, my boy, do. Take him out and make him skip about.
I promised you 2 more inches round my chest this summer. I tried exercises with an India rubber expander, but I wasn't strong enough. Instead of my expanding it, it crumpled me up. Come along, Johnny.
Do you no end of good, young chap.
At last.
At last. Oh, if I might only have a holiday in an asylum for the dumb. How I envy the animals. They can't talk. If Johnny could only put his ears or wag his tail instead of laying down the law, how much better it would be. We should know when he was cross and when he was pleased, and that's all we know now. With all his talk, it never stops. Talk. That's all my life. All the day I listen to Mama talking. At dinner I listen to Papa talking. And when Papa stops talking for a breath, I listen to Johnny talking.
You make me feel very guilty. I talk too, I'm afraid.
Oh, but I don't mind that, because your talk is a novelty. But it must have been dreadful for your daughters.
I suppose so.
If parents would only realize how much they bore their children. 3 or 4 times in the last hour, I've been on the point of screaming.
Were we very dull?
Not at all. You were very clever. That's what's so hard to bear, because it makes it so difficult to avoid listening. You see, I'm young, and so I do so want something to happen. My mother tells me that when I'm her age, I shall be only too glad that nothing's happened. But I'm not her age. So what good is that to me? There's my father in the garden, meditating on his destiny. All very well for him. He's had a destiny to meditate on. But I haven't had any destiny yet. Everything's happened to him. Nothing's happened to me. That's why this unending talk is so maddeningly uninteresting to me.
It would be worse if we sat in silence.
No, it wouldn't. If you all sat in silence, as if you were waiting for something to happen, then there would be hope, even if nothing did happen. But this eternal cackle, cackle, cackle about things in general is only fit for old, old, old people. I suppose it means something to them. They've had their fling. All I listen for is some sign of it ending in something. But just when it seems to be coming to a point, Johnny or Papa starts another hair, and it all begins again. And I realize that it's never going to lead anywhere and never going to stop. That's when I want to scream. I wonder how you can stand it.
Well, I'm old and garrulous myself, you see. Besides, I'm not here of my own free will exactly. I came because you ordered me to come.
Didn't you want to come?
My dear, after 30 years of managing other people's business, men lose the habit of considering what they want or don't want.
Oh, don't begin to talk about what men do and about 30 years' experience. If you can't get off that subject, you'd better send for Johnny and Papa and begin it all over again.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon.
I asked you. Didn't you want to come?
I did not stop to consider whether I wanted or not, because when I read your letter, I knew I had to come.
Why?
Oh, come, Miss Tarleton, really, really, don't force me to call you a blackmailer to your face. You have me in your power, and I do what you tell me very obediently. Don't ask me to pretend I do it of my own free will.
I don't know what a blackmailer is. I haven't even had that much experience.
A blackmailer, my dear young lady, is a person who knows a disgraceful secret in the life of another person and extorts money from that other person by threatening to make his secret public unless the money is paid.
I haven't asked you for money.
No, but you asked me to come down here and talk to you, and you mentioned casually that if I didn't, you'd have nobody to talk about me to but Bentley. That was a threat, was it not?
Well, I wanted you to come.
In spite of my age and my unfortunate talkativeness.
I like talking to you. I can let myself go with you. I can say things to you that I can't say to other people.
I wonder why.
Well, you are the only really clever, grown-up, high-class, experienced man I know who has given himself away to me by making an utter fool of himself with me. You can't wrap yourself up in your toga after that. You can't give yourself airs with me.
You mean you can tell Bentley about me if I do?
Even if there wasn't any Bentley, even if you didn't care, and I really don't see why you should care so much, still, we never could be on conventional terms with one another again. Besides, I've got a feeling for you, almost a ghastly sort of love for you.
Oh, I beg you, no, please.
Oh, it's nothing at all flattering, and of course nothing wrong, as I suppose you'd call it.
Please believe that I know that. When men of my age...
Oh, do talk about yourself when you mean yourself, not about men your age.
I'll put it as bluntly as I can. When, as you say, I made an offer of a fool of myself, believe me, I made a poetic fool of myself. I was seduced, not by my appetites, which, thank heaven, I've long outlived, but even by the desire of second childhood for a child, companion, but the innocent impulse to place the delicacy and wisdom and spirituality of my age at the affectionate service of your youth for a few years, at the end of which you would be a grown, strong, formed widow. Alas, my dear, the delicacy of age reckoned as usual without the derision and cruelty of youth. You told me that you didn't want to be an old man's nurse, and that you didn't want to have undersized children like Bentley. It served me right. I don't reproach you. I was an old fool. But how you can imagine after that I can suspect you of the smallest feeling for me except the inevitable feeling of early youth for late age, or imagine that I have any feeling for you except one of shrinking humiliation, I can't understand.
I don't blame you for falling in love with me. I shall be grateful to you all my life for it, because that was the first time that anything really interesting happened to me.
You mean to tell me that nothing of that kind had ever happened before? That no man had ever...
Oh, lots. That's part of the routine of life here, the very dullest part. The young man who comes a-courting is as familiar an incident in my life as coffee for breakfast. Of course, he's too much of a gentleman to misbehave himself, and I'm too much of a lady to let him. And he's shy and sheepish, and I'm correct and self-possessed, and at last, when I can bear it no longer, I either frighten him off or give him a chance of proposing, just to see how he'll do it, and refuse him because he does it in the same silly way as all the rest. You don't call that an event in one's life, do you? With you, it was different. I should have as soon expected the North Pole to fall in love with me as you. You know, I'm only a linen draper's daughter when all's said. I was afraid of you. You, a great man, a lord, and older than my father. And then what a situation it was. Just think of it. I was engaged to your son, and you knew nothing about it. He was afraid to tell you. He brought you down here because he thought if he could throw us together, I could get round you because I was such a ripping girl. We arranged it all, he and I. We got Papa and Mamma and Johnny out of the way splendidly. And then Bentley took himself out and left us, you and me, to take a walk through the heather and admire the scenery at Hindhead. You never dreamt that it was all a plan. And what made me so nice was the way I was playing up to my destiny as the sweet girl that was to make your boy happy. And then...
Stop! Can no woman understand a man's delicacy?
You proposed! You, a father, for your son's girl!
Stop, I tell you. Don't profane what you don't understand.
That was something happening at last with a vengeance. It was splendid. It was my first peep behind the scenes. If I'd been 17, I should have fallen in love with you. Even as it is, I feel quite differently towards you as I do towards other older men. So, you may kiss my hand if that will be any fun for you.
No. How dare you? Oh, how callous youth is, how coarse, how cynical, how ruthlessly cruel.
Stuff. It's only that you're tired of a great many things I've never tried.
It's not alone that. I've not forgotten the brutality of my own boyhood, but do try to learn, glorious young beast that you are, that age is squeamish, sentimental, fastidious. If you can't understand my holier feelings, at least you know the bodily infirmities of the old. You know that I daren't eat all the rich things you gobble up at every meal, that I can't bear the noise and racket and clatter that affect you no more than they affect a stone. Well, my soul is like that too. Spare it. Be gentle with it. If you could possibly think of me as half an angel and half an invalid, we should get on much better together.
We get on very well, I think. Nobody else ever called me a glorious young beast. I like that. Glorious young beast expresses exactly what I like to be.
Where on earth do you get these morbid tastes? You seem to have been well brought up in a normal, healthy, respectable, middle-class family. Yet you go on like the most unwholesome product of the rankest bohemianism.
That's just it. I'm fed up with...
Horrible expression, don't.
Oh, I dare say it's vulgar, but there's no other word for it. I'm fed up with nice things, with respectability and propriety. When a woman has nothing to do, money and respectability mean that nothing is ever allowed to happen to her. I don't want to be good, and I don't want to be bad. I just don't want to be bothered about either good or bad. I want to be an active verb.
An active verb? Oh, I see. An active verb signifies to be, to do, or to suffer.
Just so. How clever of you. I want to be, I want to do, and I'm game to suffer if it costs that. But stick here doing nothing but being good and nice and ladylike. I simply won't. Stay down here with us for a week, and I'll show you what it means. Show it to you going on day after day, year after year, lifetime after lifetime.
Show me what?
Girls withering into ladies. Ladies withering into old maids, nursing old women, running errands for old men, good for nothing else at last. Oh, you can't imagine the fiendish selfishness of the old people and the maudlin sacrifice of the young. It's more unbearable than any poverty, more horrible than any regular right-down wickedness. Oh, home, home, parents, family, duty. Oh, how I loathe them. How I'd like to see them all blown to bits. The poor escape, the wicked escape. Well, I can't be poor. We're rolling in money. It's no use pretending we're not. But I can be wicked, and I'm quite prepared to be.
You think that easy?
Well, isn't it? Being a man, you ought to know.
It requires some natural talent, which can no doubt be cultivated. It's not really easy to be anything out of the ordinary.
Anyhow, I mean to make a fight for living.
Living your own life, I believe the suffragettes' phrase is.
Living any life. Living instead of withering, without even a gardener to snip you off when you're rotten.
I've lived an active life, but I've withered all the same.
No, you've worn out. That's quite different. And you've some life in you yet, or you wouldn't have fallen in love with me. You can never imagine how delighted I was to find that instead of being the correct sort of panjadrum you were supposed to be, you were really an old rip like Papa.
No, not about your father. I really can't bear it. And if you must say these terrible things, these heart-wounding, shameful things, at least find something prettier to call me than an old rip.
Well, what would you call a man proposing to a girl who might be...
His daughter, yes, I know.
I was going to say his granddaughter.
You always have one more blow to get in.
Oh, you're too sensitive. Did you ever make mud pies when you were a kid? Beg pardon, a child?
I hope not.
It's a dirty job, but Johnny and I were vulgar enough to like it. I like young people because they're not afraid of dirt to live. I've grown out of mud pies, but I like slang. I like bustling you up by saying things that shock you. I'd rather put up with swearing and smoking than dull respectability. And there are lots of things that would just shrivel you up that I think rather jolly. Now,
I've not the slightest doubt of it. Don't insist.
it's not your ideal, is it?
No.
Shall I tell you why? Your ideal is an old woman. I dare say she's got a young face, but she's an old woman. Old, squeamish. Can't stand up to things, can't enjoy things, not real things, always on the shrink.
On the shrink. Detestable expression.
Bah, you can't even stand a little thing like that. What good are you? Oh, what good are you?
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Tarleton returns.
Well, Papa, have you meditated on your destiny?
Oh, my destiny, God, I forgot all about it. Doc started a rabbit and put it clean out of my head. Besides, why should I give way to morbid introspection? It's a sign of madness. Read Lombroso, Well, Summaries, my little girl been entertaining you?
Yes, she's a wonderful entertainer.
I think my idea of bringing up a young girl has been rather a success. So don't you listen to this, Patsy. Might make you conceited. She's never been treated like a child. I've always said the same thing to her mother. Let her read what she likes, let her do what she likes, let her go where she likes. Hey, Patsy?
Oh, yes. If there had only been anything for me to do, any place for me to go, anything I wanted to read.
There, you see? She's not satisfied. She's restless. Wants things to happen. Wants adventures to drop out of the sky.
If you're going to talk about me and my education, I'm off.
Well, off with you. She's active, like me. She actually wanted me to put her into the shop.
Well, they tell me that girls there have adventures sometimes.
She had me there, though she doesn't know it. Poor innocent lamb. Public scandal exaggerates enormously, of course, but moralize as you will. Superabundant fatality is a physical fact that can't be talked away. Difficult question, this, bringing up children. You know, between ourselves, it's beaten me. I never was so surprised in my life as when I came to know Johnny as a man of business, found out what he was really like. How did you manage with your sons?
Well, I really hadn't time to be a father. That's the plain truth of the matter. Their poor dear mother did the usual thing while they were with us. Then, of course, Harrow, Cambridge, the usual routine of their class. I saw very little of them and thought very little about them. How could I, with a whole province on my hands? They and I are acquaintances, not perhaps quite ordinary acquaintances. There's a sort of, I should almost call it a sort of remorse about the way we shake hands when we do shake hands, which means, I suppose, that we're sorry we don't care more for one another. I'm afraid we don't meet oftener than we can help. We put each other too much out of countenance. It's really a very difficult relation. To my mind, not altogether a natural one.
Well, that's an idea, certainly. I don't think anybody's ever written about it.
Bentley is the only one who was really my son in any serious sense. He was completely spoiled. When he was sent to a preparatory school, he simply yelled until he was sent home. Harrow was out of the question, but we managed to tutor him into Cambridge. No use, he was sent down. By that time, my work was over, and I saw a good deal of him. But I could do nothing with him except look on. I should have thought your case was quite different. You keep up the middle-class tradition, the day school, the business training instead of the university. I believe in the day school part of it. At all events, you know your own children.
You? Not so sure of it. Fact is, my dear Summaries, once childhood is over, once a little animal has got past the stage where it acquires what you might call a sense of decency, it's all up with the relation between parent and child. You can't get over the fearful shyness of it.
Shyness?
Yes, shyness. Read Dickens.
Dickens? Of all authors, Charles Dickens? Are you serious?
No, I don't mean his books. Read his letters to his family. Read it. Read any man's letters to his children. They're not human. They're not about himself or themselves. They're about hotels and scenery, about the weather and getting wet and losing the train and what he saw on the road and all that. Not a word about himself. Forced. Time. Duty letters, all fit to be published. That says everything. I tell you, there's a wall 10 feet thick and 10 miles high between parent and child. I know what I'm talking about. I've girls in my employment, girls and young men. I had ideas on the subject. I used to go to the parents, and I'd say to them, tell them not to let their children go out into the world without instruction and the dangers and the temptations they were going to be thrown into. And what did every one of the mothers say to me? Oh, sir, how could I speak of such things to my own daughter? And the men said I was quite right, but they didn't do it any more than I'd been able to do with Johnny. I had to leave books in his way. I felt just awful when I did it. Believe me, Summerhays, the relation between the young and the old should be an innocent relation. It should be something they could talk about. Well, the relation between parent and child may be an affectionate relation, maybe a useful relation, maybe a necessary relation, but it can never be an innocent relation. You die rather than allude to it. Depend on it. In 1,000 years, it'll be considered bad form to know who your mother and father are. Embarrassing. Better hand Bentley over to me. I can look him in the face and talk to him as man to man. You can have Johnny.
Thank you. I've lived in the country so long where a man may have 50 sons who are no more to him than a regiment of soldiers. I'm afraid I've lost the English feeling about it.
You mean Genghis Khan, yes. Good thing the empire educates us, opens our minds, knocks the Bible out of us, civilizes the other chaps.
Yes, it civilizes them and it uncivilizes us. Their gain, our loss, Totten. Believe me, our loss.
Well, why not? averages out the human race, makes the heathen half an Englishman, makes the Englishman half a heathen. Englishman half a heathen.
Speaking as the unfortunate Englishman in question, I don't like the process. If I had my life to live over again, I'd stay home and super civilize myself.
Nonsense. Don't be selfish. Think how you've improved the other chaps. Look at the Spanish Empire. Bad job for Spain, but splendid for South America. And look what the Romans did for Britain. And they burst up and had to clear out. But think of all they taught us. They were the making of us. I believe there was a Roman camp on Hind's Head. I'll show it to you tomorrow. And that's the good side of imperialism. It's unselfish. I despise the little Englanders. They're always thinking about England, small-minded. I'm for the Parliament of Man, the Federation of the World. Read Tennyson. Then there's the great food question.
Need we go into that this afternoon?
No, but I wish you'd tell the chickabiddy that the Genghis Khans eat no end of toasted cheese, and that's the secret of their amazing health and long life.
Unfortunately, they are neither healthy nor long-lived, and they don't eat toasted cheese.
Well, there you are. It would be if they ate it. Anyhow, say what you like, provided the moral is a Welsh rabbit for my supper.
British morality in a nutshell.
Yes, awful hypocrites, ain't we?
They are interrupted by excited cries from the grounds.
Papa! Mama, come out as fast as you can! Quick! Quick!
Hello, Governor, come out, an aeroplane. Look,
Aeroplane?
look.
Did he say an aeroplane?
Aeroplane?
A shadow falls in the pavilion, and some of the glass at the top is shattered and falls into the floor. Tarleton and Summerhays rush out to the pavilion into the garden.
Take care! Take care of the chimney!
Come this side. It's coming right where you're
Hello,
standing.
what the devil are you coming, man? You'll have my roof off.
Lost control.
Look, Hypatia, there are 2 people in it.
They've cleared it. Well, still.
Yes, but they're coming slamming to the greenhouse.
The glass.
They'll break all the glass. They'll spoil all the grapes.
Mind where you're coming. He'll save it. No, they're down.
An appalling crash of breaking glass is heard. Everybody shrieks.
Oh, are they killed? John, are they killed?
Broken. Can you stand?
Oh, you must be hurt. Are you sure? Shall I get you some water?
You all right? You all right? You sure you won't have some brandy just to take
No,
off?
thank you, quite right, not a scratch. I assure you I'm all right.
What luck! And what a smash! You are a lucky chap, I can tell you.
The aviator and Tarleton come in through the pavilion, followed by Lord Summerhays and Bentley.
I'm really very sorry. I'm afraid I've knocked your vinery into a cocked hat. You don't mind, do you?
Oh, no, not a bit. Come in, have some tea. Stay to dinner. Stay over the weekend. All my life I've wanted to fly.
Oh, you're really more than kind.
What? It's Joey Percival.
Hello? Ben? Is that you?
What? The man with 3 fathers?
Oh, has Ben been talking about me?
Consider yourself one of the family, if he will do me the honor. And your friend, too. Where is your friend?
Oh, by the way, before he comes in, let me explain. I don't know him.
Hey?
I haven't even looked at him. I'm trying to make a club record with a passenger. The club supplied the passenger. He just got in, and I've been too busy handling the aeroplane to look at him. I haven't said a word to him, and I can't answer for him socially. But he's an ideal passenger for a flyer. He saved me from a smash.
Saw it. It was extraordinary. When you were thrown out, he held on to the top bar with one hand. You came past him in the air, going straight for the glass. He caught you and turned you off into the flower bed, and then lighted beside you like a bird.
How he kept his head, I can't imagine. Frankly, I didn't.
The passenger, also begoggled, comes into the pavilion with Johnny and the 2 ladies.
Just discussing your prowess, my dear sir. Magnificent. You'll stay to dinner. You'll stay the night. Stay over the week. The chickabiddy will be delighted.
Won't you take off your goggles and have some tea?
Do, and have a wash. Johnny, take the gentleman to your room. I look after Mr. Percival. They must...
A lady?
Well,
Oh, by George!
Oh, I say.
You never told me.
I hadn't the least idea. I assure you, If I'd had the faintest notion that my passenger was a lady, I shouldn't have left you to shift for yourself in that selfish way.
Lady seems to have shifted for both very effectually, sir.
Saved my life. I admit it gratefully.
I must apologize, madam, for having offered you the civilities appropriate to the opposite sex. And yet, why opposite? We're all human, males and females, the same species. When the dress is the same, the distinction vanishes. I'm proud to receive in my house a lady of evident refinement and distinction. Allow me to introduce myself. Tarleton, John Tarleton. Yes, Tarleton's underwear. My wife, Mrs. Tarleton. You'll excuse me for having taken in what I had taken to be a confidence between a man and a man, alluded to her as Chickabiddy. My daughter, Hypatia, who has always wanted some adventure to drop out of the sky and is now, I hope, satisfied at last. Lord Timmerhay is a man known wherever the British flag waves. His son, Bentley, engaged to Hypatia, Mr. Joseph Percival, the promising son of 3 highly intellectual fathers.
Bentley's friend.
May I now ask the pleasure of knowing your name?
My name is Lena Szczepanowska.
I beg your pardon?
Szczepanowska.
Well, thank you.
You mind saying it again?
Say fish.
Fish.
Say church.
Church.
Say fish church.
But this is not good sense.
Say fish church.
Fish church.
Say it again.
No, but fish church.
Now say Szczepanowska.
Szczepanowska. Got it, by God. Szczepanowska. Not an English name, is it?
Polish. I'm a Pole.
Yes. Interesting nation. Lucky people get the government of their country taken off their hands. Nothing to do but cultivate themselves. Same as we took Gibraltar off the hands of the Spaniards. Saves the Spanish taxpayers. Jolly good thing for us if the Germans took Portsmouth. Oh, sit down, won't you?
Have some tea now, won't you?
I never drink tea.
Bad thing to aeroplane on, I should imagine. Too jumpy? Been up much?
Not in an aeroplane. I've parachuted, but that's child's play.
But aren't you very foolish to run such a dreadful risk?
You can't live without running risks.
Oh, what a thing to say. Didn't you know you might have been killed?
That was why I went up.
Horse. Can't you understand the fascination of the thing? The novelty, the daring, the sense of something happening?
Oh, no, it's too tame a business for that. I went up for family reasons.
What? Family reasons?
Hope it wasn't to spite your mother.
Or your husband?
I'm not married. And why should I want to spite my mother?
That was clever of you, Mr. Percival.
What?
To find out.
I'm in a difficulty. I can't understand a lady going up in an aeroplane for family reasons. It's rude to be curious and ask questions, but then it's inhuman to be indifferent as if you didn't care.
I'll tell you with pleasure. For the last 150 years, not a single day has passed without some member of my family risking his life or her life. It is a point of honor with us to keep up that tradition. Usually several of us do it, but it happens that just at this moment it is being kept up by one of my brothers only. Early this morning, I got a telegram from him to say there had been a fire and he could do nothing for the rest of the week. Fortunately, I had an invitation from the Aerial League to see this gentleman try to break the passenger record. I appealed to the president of the league to let me save the honor of my family. He arranged it for me.
I must be dreaming. This is stark raving nonsense.
You are quite awake, sir.
Well, I'm dreaming as you, of all of you, as well as this lovely lady.
Don't be silly, John. The lady's only joking, I'm sure. I suppose your luggage is in the aeroplane?
Luggage was out of the question. If I stay to dinner, I'm afraid I can't change unless you'll lend me some clothes.
Do you mean neither of you?
I'm afraid so.
Oh, well, never mind. Hypatia will lend the lady a gown.
Thank you. I'm quite comfortable as I am. I am not accustomed to gowns. They hamper me and make me feel ridiculous. If you don't mind, I shall not change.
Well, I'm beginning to think I'm doing a bit of dreaming myself.
Oh, it's all right, Mamma. Johnny, look after Mr. Percival. Come with me.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Thank you.
Well, this is a nice thing to happen. And look at the greenhouse. It'll cost £30 to mend it. People have no right to do such things. And you invited them to dinner too. What sort of woman is that to have in our house when you know that all Hindhead will be calling on us to see that aeroplane? Bunny, come with me and help me to get all the people out of the grounds. I declare they came running as if they'd sprung up out of the earth.
Oh, don't you trouble, Chickabiddy. I'll tackle it.
Indeed, you'll do nothing of the kind. You'll stay here quietly with Lord Summerhays. You'd invite them all to dinner. Come, Bunny.
Singularly beautiful woman, Summerhays. What do you make of her? She must be a princess. What's this family of warriors and statesmen that risk their lives every day?
They're evidently not warriors or statesmen, or they wouldn't do that.
Well, then who the devil are they?
I think I know. The last time I saw that lady, she did something I should not have thought possible.
What was that?
Well, she walked backwards along a taut wire without a balancing pole and turned a somersault in the middle. I remember that her name was Lena and that the other name was foreign, though I don't recollect it.
You couldn't have forgotten that if you'd heard it.
I didn't hear it. I only saw it on a program. But it's clear that she's an acrobat. Explains how she saved Percival. And it accounts for her family pride.
Acrobat, eh? Good. Summerhays, that brings her within reach. That's better than a princess. I steeled this evergreen heart of mine when I thought she was a princess. Now I shall let it be touched. She is accessible. Good.
I hope you're not serious. Remember, you have a family. You have a position. You are not in your first youth.
No matter. There's magic in the night when the heart is young. My heart is young. Besides, I'm a married man, not a widower like you. A married man can do anything he likes if his wife don't mind. And a widower can't be too helpful. It's not that I would have you think me an unprincipled man or a bad husband. I'm not. But I've a superabundance of vitality. Read Pepper's diary.
That woman is your guest, Tarleton.
Well, is she? A woman I bring into my house is my guest. A woman you bring into my house is a guest. But a woman who drops bang down out of the sky into my greenhouse and smashes every blessed pane of glass must take her chance.
Know that my name must not be associated with any scandal. You'll be careful, won't you?
Oh, Lord, yes. I was only joking, of course.
Well, I never, John. I don't think that young woman's right in her head. Do you know what she's just asked for?
Champagne?
No. She wants a Bible and 6 oranges.
What?
A Bible and 6 oranges.
Well, I understand the oranges. She's doing an orange cure of some sort. But what on earth does she want a Bible for?
I'm sure I can't imagine. She can't be right in her head.
Perhaps she wants to read it.
But why should she? On a weekday, at all events. What would you advise me to do, Lord Summerhays?
Well, is there a Bible in the house?
Stacks of them. There's the Family Bible, the Dore Bible, the Parallel Revised Version Bible, the Dove's Press Bible, and Johnny's Bible, and Bobby's Bible, and Patsy's Bible, and the Chickabiddy's Bible, and my Bible. I dare say the servants could raise a few more between them. Let her have the lot.
Don't talk like that before Lord Summerhays, John.
It doesn't matter, Mrs. Tarleton. In Genghis Khan, it was a punishable offense to expose a Bible for sale. The empire has no religion.
Oh, Mrs. Tarleton, shall I be making myself very troublesome if I ask for a music stand in my room as well?
Not at all. You can have the piano if you like, or the gramophone. Have the gramophone.
No, thank you. No music.
Do you think it's good for you to eat so many oranges? Aren't you afraid of getting jaundice?
Not in the least. But billiard balls will do quite as well.
But you can't eat billiard balls, child.
Get him, Chickabiddy. I understand. Eh?
Just so.
Billiard balls and cues, plates, knives, and forks, 2 paraffin lamps and a hat stand.
No, that is popular low-class business. In our family, we touch nothing but classical work. Anybody can do lamps and hat stands. I can do silver bullets. That is really hard.
Well, I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about, and I only hope you know yourselves. However, you shall have what you want, of course.
Will you forgive my curiosity? What is the Bible for?
To quiet my soul.
Yes, yes. It no longer quiets mine, I'm sorry to say.
That is because you do not know how to read it. Put it up before you on a stand and open it at the Psalms. When you can read them and understand them quite quietly and happily, and keep 6 balls in the air all the time, you are in perfect condition, and you'll never make a mistake that evening. If you find you can't do that, then go and pray until you can, and be very careful that evening.
Is that the usual form of text in your profession?
Nothing but Louis Chepanowski's too is usual, my lord.
Why, you are so wonderful.
It is our profession to be wonderful.
Do you never condescend to do as common people do? For instance, do
Common-
you not pray as common people pray?
Common people do not pray, my lord. They only beg.
You never ask for anything.
No,
Then why do you pray?
to remind myself that I have a soul.
True, fine, good, beautiful. All this damn materialism, what good is it to anybody? I've got a soul, don't tell me I haven't. Cut me up and you can't find it. Cut up a steam engine, you can't find the steam, but by George, it makes the engine go. Say what you will, Summaries, the divine spark is a fact.
Have I denied it?
Our whole civilization is a denial of it. Read Walt Whitman.
I shall go to the billiard room and get the balls for you.
Thank you.
Listen to me. What you just said now is beautiful. You touch chords. You appeal to the poetry in a man. You inspire him. Come now. You're a woman of the world. You're independent. You must have driven lots of men crazy. You know the sort of man I am, don't you? See through me at a glance, eh?
Yes.
Good. Well, you like me? Don't misunderstand me. I'm perfectly aware that you're not going to fall in love at first sight with a ridiculous old shopkeeper. I can't help that ridiculous old shopkeeper. I have to carry him about me, whether I like it or not. I have to pay for his clothes, although I hate the cut of them, especially the waistcoat. I have to look at him in the glass while I'm shaving. I loathe him because he's living a lie. He's a living lie. My soul is not like that. It's like yours. I want to make a fool of myself. About you. Would you let me?
How much will you pay?
Nothing. But I'll throw as many sovereigns as you like into the sea to show you I'm in earnest.
Are those your usual terms?
No. I never made that bid before.
What did you say your name was?
John Tarleton, the great John Tarleton of Tarleton's Underwear.
Tarleton.
58.
Thank you. I keep a list of all my offers. I like to know what I am considered worth.
Let me look.
It's in Polish.
Oh, that's no good. Is mine the lowest offer?
No, the highest.
What do most of them come to? Diamonds, motor cars, furs, villa at Monte Carlo?
Oh yes, all that. And sometimes the devotion of a lifetime.
Oh, fancy that. A young man offering a woman his old age as temptation.
But By the way, you did not say how long.
Until you get tired of me.
Or until you get tired of me.
I never get tired. I never go on long enough for that. But it becomes so grand, so inspiring, that I feel that everything must be an anticlimax after that. Then I run away.
Does she let you go without a struggle?
Yes, glad to get rid of me. When love takes a man as it takes me, when it makes him great, you see, it frightens a woman.
The lady here is your wife, isn't she? Don't you care for her?
Yes, and mind, she comes first, always. I reserve her dignity even when I sacrifice my own. You'll respect that point of honor, won't you?
Only a point of honor?
No, by God, a point of affection as well.
Shake hands, old pal.
Thanks. That means no, doesn't it?
It means something that will last longer than yes. I like you. I admit you to my friendship. What a pity you were not trained when you were young. You'd be young still.
I suppose to an athlete like you, I'm pretty awful, eh?
Shocking.
Too much crumb, wrinkles, yellow patches that won't come off. Short wind, I know. I'm ashamed of myself. I could do nothing on the high rope.
Oh, yes. I could put you in a wheelbarrow and run you along 200 feet up.
Well, I'd even do that for you. Read The Master Builder.
Have you learned everything from books?
Well, have you learned everything from the flying trapeze?
On the flying trapeze, there is often another woman, and her life is in your hands every night, and your life in hers.
Lena, I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to cry.
Pray instead. Don't cry. Why should you cry? You're not the first I've said no to.
If you'd said yes, could I have been the first then?
What right have you to ask? Have I asked, am I the first?
You're right, a vulgar question. To a man like me, everyone is the first. Life renews itself.
The youngest child is the sweetest.
Don't probe too deep, Lena. It hurts.
You must get out of the habit of thinking that these things matter so much. It's linen draperish.
You're quite right. I've often said so. All the same, it does matter, for I want to cry.
Oh, la. Courage, old pal, courage. Have you a gymnasium here?
Oh. There's a trapeze and bars and things in the billiard room.
Come, you need a few exercises. I'll teach you how to stop crying.
A young man, cheaply dressed and strange in manner, appears in the garden, steals into the pavilion door and looks in. Seeing that there is nobody, he enters cautiously until he has come far enough to see into the hat stand corner. He draws revolver and examines it, apparently to make sure that it is loaded. We'll take our intermission here. We'll be back in 10 minutes at 2:50.
Drew, are you there?
I'm here.
When did Drew send that text saying he's not going to read the stage directions?
I beg your pardon?
When did Drew send that text? He's not reading stage directions.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, when did Drew send that text that he's not sending, he's not going to read stage directions?
I don't
Did you
know.
see it?
I didn't see it.
In the chat box. How you doing out there?
I'm still trying to cast one role for next week.
What's next week?
Oh God, have you seen my email yet? It's Bo Stratagem.
It's what?
Bo Stratagem on Sunday.
Oh, if I'm in it, I have it written down. I just haven't looked at the script.
Yeah.
Do I ever seem unprepared?
Nope.
Hey, I heard you from the other room. I just want to clarify. I'm still reading stage directions. I'm not reading entrances and exits. Because
yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't bother me. I plow through no matter what happens.
right, and I figure most people are. I told everybody that I'm going to be reading the underlined stage directions, so I think some people are waiting for them.
Are you hearing, not in the last scene I just did, but in the earlier scenes, were you hearing a horrific echo of me, or was it everybody?
Yeah, I didn't know what it was. It was in. I think it was coming from your microphone though.
You never know what's happening with these things.
No, that usually means it's going. Somebody's connection is wonky.
Sure, maybe.
Because I tested this before we started with a different Zoom call, but it seems to have stopped.
Yeah, it happened and then it ended, and
I
it
think
happened a little bit again.
It happens when there's a lot of people on stage.
Yeah, actually, that's probably it. So yes, it might be someone's
way to
connection.
nail down whose it is, but I don't know how to do that. Do you know that group, the show must go online?
No,
No.
it's a clever name though.
They're a British group. They
Yeah, I have a friend who has done a couple of productions with them.
Who?
I have a friend who's done a couple of productions with them, Betsy Bowman.
Yeah, does she like them?
Yeah, they're a big fan.
I did too.
They have someone, I think, doing like stage management during.
They're very serious about it. I did too, and I quit.
I apologize for that opening speech. This script is so hard to read.
I did send out one.
I know. Well, I didn't. I'd already downloaded this one, and it's only so much ink I've got left in my printer.
Sure.
And the problem is that it's not only
I did show up there and give you a lesson.
Yes, I know, but even so, it'd still be hard to do. It's a bad font, and so it's hard to read. I was going to use my own copy, but the print is even smaller in that one.
Right, out of the book.
The book's falling apart. So
Yeah.
at this point, so I've used it so much. So say la vie.
Yeah.
I gave this man a lesson in scripting, putting your script on the.
Yes, I know.
It's so much easier.
Just didn't do his homework. I don't know what to do with him. I mean, we've tried special schools and tutors. His mother and I are at our wits' end.
I just feel hard copy. Forgive me. I just do.
I know everybody's personal preference for different things.
How's it going out in the West Coast?
It's nice. We're having a heat wave, but it's calming down. And I've been gardening up a storm, and both of the Annas, Anna Savant and Anna Cody, are coming to visit me this week because they're on the West Coast visiting Savant's family. So that'll be fun.
That's why Anna can't rehearse on Thursday night because she's not going to be back here. And
Right.
Back on Friday, so
Right.
Can't do it on Saturday. We can't do it, unfortunately.
We'll do what we have to do.
How does Jordan know Anna S? He just. Jordan, how do you know Anna S?
My bad. I was trying to send it to everybody, and then it didn't. It just sent it to you. Anna and I worked together. Probably the first time I ever was in New York, which was 2012. We did a show with Mariah McCarthy called it was a Romeo and Juliet, sort of a queerized Romeo and Juliet.
I think I saw that.
I've heard about this.
Really?
I think I saw that. That was right when I met her. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
2012?
Anna's amazing. Anna's like the sweetest human being ever. So
Yeah.
I'm glad she's coming to see you.
Where are you located now? Are you in New York?
Oh, I'm in New York. Yeah. I live in Astoria now. So
Where in Astoria? I just moved out of Astoria.
really? So I just moved in when everyone else moved out. I'm on 20th. I think it's 20th Avenue. I'm right by the water.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm actually I'm really close to the park and right by the water and by all the restaurants and stuff like that, which was
that's good. Is it
nice? I mean,
walk to the train?
It's disconcerting during the pandemic because people were like really not interested in social distancing.
No, you're in Queens. It's a different
yeah, like the whole street was just like filled with people. Like I was like, oh, you guys don't look like you're in each other's pod. So it was like not.
No.
It was not
I mean,
good.
I was one of those people during the pandemic at the very beginning. Even I wore a mask, but I was like going out to the river, just like breathing and being like, "Get me out."
Oh, that's different. I mean, I'm talking about people who are like hugging at the bar with no mask. Like, yeah.
There were no bars open when I was still in New York.
Yeah.
I'm glad they are now, honestly. I know it's disconcerting for some people still, but I think the poor people that own all these businesses are like, thank God.
Crazy enough, actually, I was talking to one of the business owners during the height of the pandemic, and she was like, I got to be honest, business is actually better now than it's ever been.
Really?
Because she said that she was like, instead of using Grubhub, they would just use the website for food, and that it would be easiest to deliver food out to people. So she was like, to be honest, business has been great. Because people don't want to leave their house.
Right. Well, it depends on if the people are savvy enough to have that kind of infrastructure. I think a lot of the older people are having a lot of trouble.
Oh yeah.
Who've had their deli.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Right on the border of Sunnyside and Woodside, and my neighborhood really shut down when we shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to get anything done. Then it slowly opened up again, but
Sunnyside's beautiful.
yeah, I mean the grocery store stayed open, but getting laundry done because I don't have a laundry here and in this house, and all kinds of stuff like that.
Mm.
Is your neighborhood, Jordan? Is your neighborhood? Are people still saying business is great? Is that sustained?
I haven't gone out in a while, so I'll have to ask them. It looks great, just like physically seeing a bunch of people there, but I don't know. I don't know what the numbers are for them, but I imagine so.
I still see so many shuttered stores.
Yeah, well, it's hard to reopen. Reopening is not easy for everyone. All right. On that note, let's reopen this play. Hopefully everyone's back by now. It is 2:50 your time. And we'll jump in with part 2. So, a young man, cheaply dressed and strange in manner, appears in the garden, steals into the pavilion door, and looks in. Seeing that there is nobody, he enters cautiously until he is far enough in to see the hat stand corner. He draws a revolver and examines it, apparently to make sure that it is loaded. Then his attention is caught by a Turkish bath. He looks into the lunette and opens its panels.
Mr. Percival! Mr. Percival, where are you?
The young man makes for the door, but sees Percival is coming. He turns and bolts into the Turkish bath, which he closes upon himself just in time to escape being caught by Percival, who runs in through the pavilion bareheaded. He also, it appears, is in search of a hiding place. Hypatia, excited, mischievous, her eyes glowing, runs in precisely on his tail.
Aha! Aren't you glad I've caught you?
No, I'm not. Confound it, what sort of girl are you? What sort of house is this? Must I throw all good manners to the winds?
Do. This is the house of a respectable shopkeeper, enormously rich. This is the respectable shopkeeper's daughter, tired of good manners. Come, handsome young man, and play with the respectable shopkeeper's daughter.
No. Don't you know you mustn't go on like this with a perfect stranger?
Dropped down from the sky. Don't you know that you must always go on like this when you get the chance? You must come to the top of the hill and chase me through the bracken. You may kiss me if you catch me.
I shall do nothing of the sort.
Yes, you will. You can't help yourself. Come along. Fool. Fool, come along. Don't you want to?
No, certainly not. I should never be forgiven if I did it.
You'll never forgive yourself if you don't.
Nonsense. You're engaged to Ben. Ben's my friend. What do you take me for?
Ben's old. Ben was born old. They're all old here, except for you and me and the man, woman, or woman, man, or whatever you call her that came with you. They never do anything. They only discuss whether what other people do is right. Come and give them something to discuss.
I will do nothing incorrect.
Oh, don't be afraid, little boy. You'll get nothing but a kiss, and I'll fight like the devil to keep you from getting that. But we must play on the hill and race through the heather.
Why?
Because we want to, handsome young man.
But if everybody went on in this way...
How happy! Oh, how happy the world would be!
But the consequences may be serious!
Nothing is worth doing unless the consequences may be serious. My father says so, and I'm my father's daughter.
I'm the son of 3 fathers. I mistrust these wild impulses.
Take care. You're letting the moment slip. I feel the first chill wave of prudence. Save me.
Really, Miss Tarleton? Damn you. I beg your pardon, but since we've both forgotten ourselves, you'll please allow me to leave this house.
Are you ashamed of having said damn you to me?
I had no right to say it. I'm very much ashamed of it. I have already begged your pardon.
And you're not ashamed of having said, really, Miss Tarleton?
Why should I?
Oh, man. Man. Mean, stupid, cowardly, selfish, masculine male. Man. You ought to have been a governess. I was expelled from school for saying that the very next person who said, really, Miss Tarleton, to me, I would strike her across her face. You were the next.
I had no intention of being offensive. Surely there is nothing that can wound any lady in... At least, I really didn't mean to be disagreeable.
Liar.
Of course, if you're going to insult me, I am quite helpless. You're a woman. You can say what you like.
And you can only say what you dare. Poor wretch. It isn't much.
He bites his lip and sits down.
Really, Mr. Percival? You sit down in the presence of a lady and leave her standing?
He rises hastily.
Really, Mr. Percival? Oh, really, 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 Mr. Percival? How do you like it? Wouldn't you rather I damned you?
Miss Tarleton.
Hypatia, Joey. Patsy, if you like.
Look here. This is no good. You want to do what you like?
Don't you?
No! I've been too well brought up. I've argued all through this thing, and I tell you, I'm not prepared to cast off the social bond. It's like a corset. It's a support to the figure, even if it does squeeze and deform it a bit. I want to be free.
Well, I'm tempting you to be free.
Not at all. Freedom, my good girl, means being able to count on how other people will behave. If every man who dislikes me is to throw a handful of mud in my face, and every woman who likes me is to behave like Potiphar's wife, then I shall be a slave. The slave of uncertainty, the slave of fear, the worst of all slaveries. How would you like it if every laborer you met in the road were to make love to you? No. Give me the blessed perfection of a good, stiff conventionality among thoroughly well brought up ladies and gentlemen.
Another talker. Men like conversations because men made them. I didn't make them. I don't like them. I won't keep them. Now, what will you do?
Bolt.
I'll catch you.
Hello, Patsy. Patsy, what's up? Another aeroplane? My brain's gone. Check the video.
Another sound, and you're a dead man.
Am I? Oh, you're a live one. Well, that's a comfort. I thought you were a ghost. Who are you, and what the devil were you doing in my new Turkish bath?
I'm the son of Lucinda Titmuss.
Oh, indeed? Really? How is she? Quite well, I hope.
She is dead. Dead, my God, and you're alive.
Oh, lost your mother. That's sad. I'm sorry, but we can't all have the luck to survive our mothers, be nursed out of the world by the hands that nursed us into it.
Much you care, damn you.
Oh, don't cut up rough. Face it like a man. You see, I don't know your mother, but I no doubt she was an excellent woman.
Not know her? Do you stand there by her open grave and deny that you knew her?
What did you say her name was?
Lucinda Titmuss.
Well, I ought to remember a rum name like that if I ever heard it, but I don't. You photograph of anything or anything?
Forgotten even the name of your victim.
Oh, she was my victim, was she?
She was. And you shall see her face again before you die, dead as she is. I have a photograph.
Good, good.
I have 2 photographs.
Ah, still better, yes. Treasure the mother's picture, good boy.
One of them as you knew her, the other one as she became when you flung her aside and she withered into an old woman.
Well, she'd have done that anyway, my old lad. I mean, we all grow old. Look at me. Can I hold the gun for you?
Stand back. Do you take me for a fool?
Well, you're a little upset, naturally. It does you credit.
Look here, upon this picture, and on this.
Good. Read Shakespeare. He has a word for every occasion. Wow. What a pretty girl. Very pretty. I can imagine myself falling in love with her when I was your age. You know, I wasn't a bad-looking young fellow myself in those days. Curious, we should have gone the same way.
You and she the same way? What do you mean?
Both got stout, I mean.
Oh, would you have herself deny herself food, then?
No. It wouldn't have been any use. I mean, it's constitutional. I mean, no matter how little you eat, you put on flesh if you're made that way.
Is it all the feeling that rises in you at the sight of the face you once knew so well?
Funny, I can't remember. Let this be a lesson to you, young man. I could go into court tomorrow, swear that I never saw that face before in my life, and if it wasn't for the brooch... you haven't got that brooch, by the way. You seem to carry the whole family property in that pocket.
Here to prove my bona fides.
I bought that brooch in a Cheapside from a man with a yellow wig and a cast in his left eye. I never set eyes on him from that day to this, and yet I remember that man, and I can't remember your mother.
Monster! Without conscience, without even memory, you left her to shame.
Oh, come, young man, none of that. Respect the romance of your mother's youth. Don't start throwing stones at her. I can't recall her features just at this moment. I have no doubt she was kind to me, and we were happy together. If you have a word to say against her, well, take yourself out of my house and say it elsewhere.
What sort of joker are you? Are you trying to put me in the wrong? When you have to answer for a crime that would make every honest man spit at you as you passed in the streets as if it were made known.
You read a good deal, don't you?
What if I do? What has that to do with your infamy and my mother's doom?
There, you see? Doom. That's not good sense, but it's literature. Now, it happens I'm a tremendous reader. Always was. And when I was your age, I read books of that sort by the bushel. The doom sort, you know. It's odd, isn't it, that you and I should be like one another in that respect. Can you account for it in any way?
No, what are you driving at?
Well, do you know who your father was?
I see what you mean now. You dare set up to be my father. Thank heaven I've not a drop of your vile blood in my veins.
Well, if you won't be civil, there's no pleasure in talking to you, is there? So what do you want? What do you want? Money?
How dare you insult me?
Well, what do you want?
Justice!
You're quite sure that's all?
It's enough for me.
Modest sort of demand, isn't it? Nobody's ever had it since the world began, fortunately for themselves, but you must have it, mustn't you? Well, you've come to the wrong shop for it. You'll get no justice here. We don't keep it. Human nature is what we stock.
Human nature? Debauchery, gluttony, selfishness, robbery of the poor. Is that what you call human nature?
No, that's what you call it. Come, my lad, what's the matter with you? You don't look starved. You've a decent suit of clothes.
42 shillings.
They can do you a very decent suit for 42 shillings. Have you paid for it?
Do you take me for a thief? Do you suppose I get credit like you?
Then you were able to lay your hands on 42 shillings. Judging from your conversational style, I should think you must spend at least a shilling a week on romantic literature.
Where would I get a shilling a week to spend on books when I can hardly keep myself decent? I get books at the free library.
What?
The free library, there's no harm in that.
I supply you with free books, and the use you make of them is to persuade yourself that it's a fine thing to shoot me? Ha! I'll never give another penny to a free library.
You'll never give another penny to anything. This is the end for you and me.
Oh, who? Come on, let's talk business. Now, what's wrong? You out of employment?
No. This is my Saturday afternoon. Don't flatter yourself that I'm a loafer or a criminal. I'm a cashier, and I defy you to say that my cash has ever been a farthing wrong. I have a right to call you to account because my hands are clean.
Well, fall away. What have I to account for? Had you a hard time with your mother? I mean, why didn't she ask me for money?
She'd have died first. Besides, who wanted your money? Do you suppose we lived in the gutter? My father mayn't have been as large in a way as you, but he was better connected, and his shop was as respectable as yours.
I suppose your mother brought him a little capital?
I don't know. What's that got to do with you?
Well, you say she and I knew one another and parted. Well, she must have had something off me then, you know. One doesn't get out of these things for nothing. I mean, hang it, young man, do you suppose I've no heart? Of course she had her due. And she found a husband with it, and set him up in business with it, and brought you up respectably with it. What the devil have you got to complain of?
Are women to be ruined with impunity?
I haven't ruined any woman I'm aware of. I've been the making of you and your mother.
Oh, I'm a fool to listen to you and argue with you. I came here to kill you and then kill myself.
Well, begin with yourself, if you don't mind. I've a good deal of business to do still before I die. Haven't you?
No. That's just it. I've no business to do. Do you know what my life is? I spend my days from 9 to 6, 9 hours of daylight and fresh air in a stuffy little den counting another man's money. I have an intellect, a mind and a brain and a soul, and the use he makes of them to fix it on his tuppences and 8pences and £2.17 and 10pences, and see how much they come to at the end of the day, and take care that no one steals them. I enter and add and take money and give change and fill checks and stamp receipts, and not a penny of that money is my own. Not one of these transactions has the smallest interest for me or anyone else in the world but him. And even he couldn't stand to do it all himself. And I'm envied. I envied for the variety and liveliness of my job. By the poor devil of a bookkeeper that has to copy all my entries over again. 50,000 entries a year that poor wretch makes, and not 10 of the 50,000 ever has to be referred to again. And when all the figures are counted up and balance sheets made out, and the boss isn't a penny richer than if he'd be bookkeeping had never been invented. Of all the damnable waste of human life that was ever invented, clocking is the very worst.
Why not join the territorials?
Because I shouldn't be let. He hasn't even the sense to see that it would pay him to get some cheap soldiering out of me. How can a man tied to a desk from 9 to 6 be anything? Even be a man, let alone a soldier. But I'll teach him and you a lesson. I've had enough of a dog's life and despising myself for it. I've had enough of being talked down to by hogs like you and wearing my life out by salary that wouldn't keep you in cigars. You'll never believe that a clerk's a man until one of you makes an example out of one of them.
Despotism tempered by assassination, eh?
Yes, that's what they do in Russia. Well, a business office in Russia is as far as the clocks are concerned. So don't take it so coolly. You think I'm not going to do it, but I am.
Come on now, man to man. It's not my fault that you're poorer than I am. It's not your fault that I'm richer than you. And if you could undo all that passed between me and your mother, you wouldn't undo it, and neither would she. But you're sick of your slavery, and you want to be the hero of a romance and get into the papers, eh? A son revenges his mother's shame. Villain weltering in his gore. Mother, look down from heaven, receive your unhappy son's last sigh.
Oh, Rod, do you think I read novelettes? And do you suppose I believe such superstitions as heaven? I go to church because my boss told me I get the sack if I didn't. Free England! Ha!
You're afraid of getting the sack, but you're not afraid to shoot yourself.
Damn you! You're trying to keep me talking until somebody comes.
Somebody has come.
Stand off! I'll shoot you if you lay a hand on me. I will, by God.
You can't cover me with that pistol. Try.
He tries, presenting the pistol to her face. She moves around him in the opposite direction and to the hands of the clock, making a light dance-like step. Tarleton behind him grips his wrist and drags him by his arm straight up so that the pistol points to the ceiling. As he tries to turn on his assailant, Lena grabs his other wrist.
Please stop. I can't bear to twist anyone's wrist, but I must if you won't let the pistol go.
All right, I'm done. Couldn't even do that job decently. That's a clock all over. Very well. Send for your damn police and make an end of it. I'm accustomed to a prison from 9 to 6, and I dare say I can stand it from 6 to 9 as well.
Don't swear. That's a lady.
Beaten by a female. It only needed this.
Old pal, don't call the police. Lend him a bicycle and let him get away.
I can't ride a bicycle. I never could afford one. I'm not even that much good.
If I gave you £100 note now to go and have a good spree with, I wonder what you'd know how to set about it. Do you ever take a holiday?
Take? I got 4 days last August.
What did you do?
I took a cheap trip to Folkestone. I spent 7 pence on dropping pennies in silly automatic slot machines and peep shows of rowdy girls having a jolly time. I spent a penny on the lift and 4 pence on refreshments. That cleaned me out. The rest of the time I was miserable, so I was glad to get back to the office. Now you know.
Come to the gymnasium. I'll teach you how to make a man of yourself.
Young man, don't. You've tried to shoot me, but I'm not vindictive. I draw the line at putting a man on the rack. If you want every joint in your body stretched until it's an agony to live, until you have an unnatural feeling that all your muscles are singing and laughing with pain, then go to the gymnasium with that lady. But you'll be more comfortable in jail.
Was that why you went away, old pal? Was that the telegram you said you had forgotten to send?
Is anything the matter, John? Nurse says she heard you calling me a quarter of an hour ago and that your voice sounded as if you were ill. Is anything the matter?
Oh, no, this is an old friend of mine, Mr. Gunner. Mr. Gunner, my wife.
Good evening to you.
I say, has anybody seen Hypatia? She promised to come out with me and I can't find her anywhere. And where's Joey?
I can tell you where Hypatia is. I can tell you where Joey is. And I say it's a scandal and an infamy. If people only knew what goes on in this so-called respectable house, it would be put a stop to. These are morals of our pious capitalist class. This is your rotten bourgeoisie. This...
Don't you dare use such language in company. I won't allow it.
All right, Chickabiddy, it's not bad language, it's only socialism.
Well, I won't have any socialism in my house.
Well, you hear what Mrs. Tarleton says. Well, in this house, everyone does what she says, or out they go.
Do you suppose I want to stay? Do you think I would breathe this polluted atmosphere a moment longer than I could help?
But what did you mean by what you said about Miss Tarleton and Mr. Percival? You beastly rotter, you.
Oh, is Hypatia your daughter? And Joey's Mr. Percival, is he? One of your set, I suppose. One of your smart set. One of your bridge-playing 80-horsepower weekender set. One of your Johnnies I slave for. Well, Joey has more decency than your daughter anyhow. The women are the worst. I never believed it till I saw it with my own eyes. And it won't last forever. The writing is on the wall. Rome fell, Babylon fell, hidden heads turned will come.
Whatever are you talking about, young man?
I know what I'm talking about. I went into the Turkish bath a boy, I came out a man.
Good gracious, he's mad. Did John make him take a Turkish bath?
No, he doesn't need Turkish baths. He needs to put on a little flesh. I don't understand what it's all about. I found him trying to shoot Mr. Tarleton.
No! And John encouraging him, I'll be bound. Bunny, you go for the police. I'll teach you to come in my house and shoot my husband.
Teach away. I never asked to be let off. I'm ashamed to be free instead of taking part with the rest. Women, beautiful women of noble birth are going to prison for their opinions. Girl students in Russia go to the gallows, let themselves be cut to pieces with a knout, or driven to the frozen snows of Siberia sooner than stand on looking tamely at the world that has been made a hell for toiling millions. If you were not all skunks and cowards, you'd be suffering with them instead of battening here on the plunder of the poor.
Oh, did you ever hear such silly nonsense? Bunny, go and tell the gardener to send over one of his men to Greyshot for the police.
I'll go with him. I intend to give myself up. I'm going to expose what I've seen here, no matter what the consequences may be to my miserable self.
Stop. Stay where you are, then. Chickabiddy, you've never had the police in. If you had, you'd not be in such a hurry to have them in again. Now, young man, do cut the cackle and tell us, as short as you can, what did you see?
I can't tell you in the presence of ladies.
Oh, you are tiresome. As if it mattered to anyone what you saw. Me, a married woman that might be your mother. And I'm sure you're not particular, if you'll excuse my saying so.
Out with it. What did you see?
I saw your daughter with my own eyes. Well, never mind what I saw.
You beastly rotter. I'll get Joey to give you such a hiding.
You can't leave it at that, you know. What did you see my daughter doing?
After all, why shouldn't she do it? The Russian students do it. Women should be as free as men. I'm a fool. I'm so full of your bourgeois morality that I let myself be shocked by the application of my own revolutionary principles. If she likes a man, why shouldn't she tell him so?
I do wonder at you, John, letting him talk like this before everybody. Would you mind going away to the drawing room just for a few minutes, Miss Chipanoska? This is a private family matter, if you don't mind.
I should have gone before Mrs. Tarleton if there had been anyone to protect Mr. Tarleton and the young gentleman.
You're quite right, Miss Lena. You must stand by. I could have tackled him this morning, but since you put me through those exercises, I'd rather die than even shake hands with a man, much less fight him.
It's all of a piece here. The men effeminate, the women unsexed.
Oh, don't begin again, old chap. Keep it for Trafalgar Square.
No!
She breaks off with a stifled laugh into a scream and is seen darting across the garden with Percival in hot pursuit. Percival, flushed and reckless, rushes in and seizes her before he too realizes that they are not alone.
Oh, excuse me rushing in like this. Mr. Percival has been chasing me down the hill.
who chased them up it. Don't be ashamed. Be fearless. Be truthful.
Gunnar, would you go to Paris for a fortnight? I'll pay your expenses.
What do you mean?
There was a silent witness in the Turkish bath.
I found him hiding in there. Whatever went on here, he saw and heard. That's what he means.
Am I to understand you as daring to put forward the monstrous and blackguardly lie that this lady behaved improperly in my presence?
You know what I saw and heard.
I hope it is not necessary for me to assure you all that there is not one word of truth, not one grain of substance in this rascally calumny, which no man with a spark of decent feeling would have uttered, even if he had been ignorant enough to believe it. Ms. Tarleton's conduct, since I have had the honor of knowing her, has been, I need hardly say, in any respect beyond reproach. As for you, sir, you'll have the goodness to come out with me immediately. I have some business with you which can't be settled in Miss Tarleton's presence or in her house.
Why should I go out with you?
Because I intend that you shall.
I won't be bullied by you. Police!
He tries to bolt, but Percival seizes him.
Leave me go, will you? What right have you to lay hands on me?
Let him run for it, Mr. Percival. He's very poor company. We should be well rid of it. Let him go.
Not until he has taken back and made the fullest apology for the abominable lie he has told. He shall do that, or he shall defend himself as best he can against the most thorough thrashing I'm capable of giving him. Take your choice. Which is it to be?
Give me a fair chance. Go and stick at a desk from 9 to 6 for a month and let me have your grub and your sport and your lessons in boxing, and I'll fight you fast enough. You know I'm no good, or you daren't bully me like this.
You should have thought of that before you attacked a lady with a dastardly slander. I'm waiting for your decision. I'm rather in a hurry, please.
I never said anything against the lady.
Oh, listen to that.
Oh, come now.
We'll have it in writing, if you don't mind. Sit down and take that pen in your hand. Now write, whatever your name is.
I can't. My hand's shaking too much. You see, it's no use. I'm doing my best. I can't.
Mr. Summerhays will write it. You can sign it.
Get up.
What's your name?
John Brown.
Oh, come. Couldn't you have made it Horace Smith or Algernon Robinson?
But my name is John Brown. There really are John Browns. How can I help it if my name's a common one?
Show us a letter addressed to you.
How can I? I never get any letters. I'm only a clerk. I can leave JB on my handkerchief.
Oh, put it up again. Let it go at John Brown.
Where do you live?
4 Chesterfield Parade, Kentish Town, NW.
I, John Brown, of 4 Chesterfield Parade, Kentish Town, do hereby voluntarily confess that on the 31st May, 1909, What did he do exactly?
I trespassed on the land of John Tarleton at Hindhead and effected an unlawful entry into his house, where I secreted myself in a portable Turkish bath.
Go slow, old man, just a moment. Turkish bath, yes?
With a pistol, with which I threatened to take the life of the said John Tarleton.
John, you might have been killed.
And was prevented from doing so only by the timely arrival of the celebrated Miss Lena Szczepanowska.
Is she celebrated? I never dreamt.
Look here, I'm awfully sorry, but I can't spell Szczepanowska.
I think it's SZCZ. Oh, thank you.
Thanks awfully.
Now it's your turn.
I further confess that I was guilty of uttering an abominable calumny concerning Miss Hypatia Tarleton, for which there was not a shred of foundation.
Foundation?
I apologize most humbly to the lady and her family for my conduct.
Conduct?
And I promise Mr. Tarleton not to repeat it and to amend my life.
Amend my life?
And do what in me lies to prove worthy of my kindness in giving me another chance.
Another chance?
And refraining from delivering me up to the punishment I so richly deserve.
Richly deserve.
Does that satisfy you, Ms. Tarleton?
Yes, that will teach him to tell lies next time.
You mean it will teach him to tell the truth next time?
Do you, Patsy?
Be good enough to sign. I hope what you are signing is no mere form of words to you, and that you not only say you are sorry, but that you are sorry.
Stop! Mr. Percival, I think on Hypatia's account, Lord Summerhays ought to be told about this.
Certainly.
Take my advice, cut it short. Get rid of them.
Hypatia ought to have her character cleared.
Let well enough alone, Chickabiddy. Most of our characters will bear very little careful dusting, but they won't bear scouring. I mean, Patsy is jolly well out of it. What does it matter anyhow?
Mr. Tarleton, we have already said either too much or not enough. Lord Summerhays, will you be kind enough to witness the declaration this man has just signed?
I haven't yet. Am I to sign now?
Of course. Now, stand up and read your declaration to this gentleman. Now, please!
I, John Brown of 4 Chesterfield Parade, Kentish Town, do hereby voluntarily confess that on 31st May 1909 I trespassed on the land of John Tarleton at Hindon Head and effected an unlawful entry into his house, where I secreted myself in a portable Turkish bath with a pistol, which I threatened to take my life, and the said John Tarleton, and was prevented from doing so only by the timely arrival of the celebrated Miss Nina I further confess I was guilty of uttering an abominable calumny concerning Miss Hypatia Tarleton, for which there is not a shred of foundation. I apologize most humbly to the lady and her family for my conduct, and I promise Mr. Tarleton not to repeat it, and to amend my life, and to do what in me lies to prove worthy of his kindness and give me another chance, and refraining from delivering me upon the punishment I so richly deserve.
Do you consider that sufficient, Lord Summerhays?
Oh, quite.
Lord Summerhays would probably like to hear you say that you are satisfied, Miss Tarleton.
I must say that you have behaved like a perfect gentleman, Mr. Percival.
We need not trouble you any further.
That's your way. The gardener will show you the shortest way into the road. Go the shortest way.
Yes, sir. Mayn't I have my mother's photographs back again?
What? Photographs? Yes, here, take them. Go, yes.
What's this, John? What were you doing with his mother's photographs?
Nothing. Never mind, Chickabiddy. It's all right.
Snatching the photographs from Gunner's irresolute fingers.
Lucy Titmus? Oh, John! John!
Young man, you're a fool, but you've just put the lid on this job in a masterly manner. I knew you would. I told you all to let well enough alone. You wouldn't, and now you must take the consequences. Rather, I must take them.
Are you Lucy's son?
Yes.
And why didn't you come to me? I didn't turn my back on your mother when she came to me in her trouble. Didn't you know that?
No, she never talked to me about anything.
How could she talk to her own son? Shy, Summerhays, shy. Parent and child, shy.
Then how did you find out?
From the papers after she died.
Is Lucy dead? And I never knew. And you here being treated like that, poor orphan, with nobody to take your part. Tear up that foolish paper, child, and sit down and make friends with me.
Hello, Mother. This is all very well, you know, but we...
May I point out, Mrs. Tarleton, that...
Do you mean that after what he said of your daughter?
Will you please speak one at a time?
Will you allow me to remind you, Mrs. Tarleton, that this man has uttered a most serious and disgraceful falsehood concerning Miss Tarleton and myself?
I don't believe a word of it. If the poor lad was there in the Turkish bath, who has a better right to say what was going on here than he has? You ought to be ashamed of yourself, Patsy. And so ought you too, Mr. Percival, for encouraging her.
Mrs. Tarleton, I give you my word of honor.
Oh, go along with you and your word of honor. Do you think I'm a fool? I wonder you can look the lad in the face after bullying him and making him sign those wicked lies, and all the time you carrying on with my daughter before you'd even been half an hour in my house. Fie for shame.
Lord Summerhays, I appeal to you. Have I done the correct thing or not?
You've done your best, Mr. Percival, but the correct thing depends for success on everybody playing the game very strictly. As a single-handed game, it's impossible.
Joey, have you taken Hypatia away from me?
Bentley, control yourself, sir.
Oh, come, Mr. Percival, the shutters are up on the gentlemanly business. Try the truth.
I am in a wretched position. If I tell the truth, nobody will believe me.
Oh, yes, I will. The truth makes everybody believe it.
It also makes everybody pretend not to believe it. Mrs. Tarleton, you're not playing the game.
I don't think you've behaved at all nicely, Mr. Percival.
I wouldn't have played you such a dirty trick, Joey. You beast.
Bentley, you must control yourself. Let me say at the same time, Mr. Percival, that my son seems to have been mistaken in regarding you as either his friend or as a gentleman.
Miss Tarleton, I'm suffering this for your sake. I ask you just to say that I am not to blame. Just that and nothing more.
You chased me through the heather and kissed me. You shouldn't have done that if you weren't in earnest.
This is really the limit! Sir, sir, I appeal to you as a gentleman, as a man of honor, and as a man bound to stand by another man. You were in that Turkish bath. You saw how it began. Could any man have behaved more correctly than I did? Is there a shadow of foundation for the accusations brought against me?
Well, what do you want me to say?
He has said what he had to say already, hasn't he? Read that paper.
I tell you the truth, you make me go back on it, and now you want me to go back on myself. What is a man to do?
Please, try to get your mind clear, Mr. Brown. I pointed out to you that you could not, as a gentleman, disparage a lady's character. You agree with me, I hope.
Yes, that sounds all right.
But you're also bound to tell the truth. Surely you'll not deny that.
Who's denying it? I say nothing against it.
Of course not. Well, I ask you to tell the truth simply. Did you witness any improper conduct on my part when you were in the bath?
No, sir.
Well, then what do you mean by saying that? Is it hypatia?
Oh,
I don't understand.
Stop.
You were afraid.
Stop. Just leave it at that. Enough said. You keep quiet, Johnny. Mr. Percival, you're whitewashed. And so are you, Patsy. Honors are easy. Let's drop the subject. The next thing to do is open a subscription to start this young man on a ranch in some far country that's accustomed to being in a disturbed state. He is
Now stop joking, the poor lad, John. I won't have it. He's been worried to death between you all. Have you had your tea?
Tea? No, it's too early. I'm all right. I've only had no dinner. I didn't think I'd want it. I didn't think I'd be alive.
Oh, what a thing to say. You mustn't talk like that.
He's out of his mind. He thinks it's past dinner time.
Oh, you've no sense, Johnny. He calls his lunch his dinner and he has his tea at 6:30, haven't you, dear?
Hasn't everybody?
By George, that's so not bad.
Now, don't be rude, Johnny. You know I don't like it. A cup of tea will pick you up.
I'd rather not. I'm all right.
Well, here, try a mouthful of slow gin.
No, thanks. I'm a teetotaler. I can't touch alcohol of any form.
Nonsense. This isn't alcohol. Slow gin, vegetarian, you know.
Is it a fruit beverage?
Of course it is. Fruit beverage. Here you are.
Thanks. Oh, it's rather hot.
Do you good. Don't be afraid of it.
Sip it, dear. Don't be in a hurry.
Well, now that the gentleman has been attended to, I should like to know where we are. It may be a vulgar business habit, but I confess I'd like to know where I am.
I don't. Wherever you are, you're there anyhow. I tell you again, leave it at that.
I want to know too. Hypatia's engaged to me.
Bentley, if you insult me again, if you say another word, I'll leave the house and not enter it until you leave it.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it, my boy.
Oh, beasts. Brutes.
Now, don't hurt his feelings, poor little lamb.
Bentley, you are not behaving well. You had better leave us until you have recovered yourself.
Oh, poor child, don't.
Oh, that's the game he tried on me. There you are. Now,
look, steady on.
you
Easy,
see for yourself, he's doing this on his own.
Easy.
Leave him to me, Miss Darlton. Stand clear, please.
She kneels opposite Bentley, quickly lifts his upper half of him off the ground, dives under him, rises with his body hanging across her shoulders, and runs out with him.
What are you doing? Let me down, please, Miss Shipanovska.
I wonder what she's going to do with him.
Spank him, I hope. Spank him hard.
I hope so. I hope so. Dalton, I'd be unmeasured, humiliated, and annoyed by my son's behavior in the house. I had better go.
No, not at all. Not at all. Now, Chickabiddy, as Miss Lena has taken away Ben, suppose you take away Mr. Brown for a while.
My name isn't Brown. My name's Baker. Julius Baker. Mr. Baker. If any man doubt it, I'm ready for him.
John, you shouldn't have given him that slow gin. It's gone to his head.
Don't you think it? Fruit beverages don't go to the head. And what matter if they did? I'll say nothing to you, ma'am. I regard you with respect and affection. You were very good to my mother, my poor mother. But I say my name's Baker, and it's not to be treated as a child or made a slave by any man. Baker is my name. Did you think I was going to give you my real name? Not likely, not me.
So you thought of John Brown. Very clever of you.
Clever, yes. We're not all such fools as you think, we clerks. It was a bookkeeper that put me up to that. It's the only name that no one gives as a false name, he said. Clever, eh? I should think so.
Now, Julius.
Don't be alarmed, ma'am. I know what is due to you as a lady and to myself as a gentleman. I regard you with respect and affection. If you'd been my mother, as you ought to have been, I should have had more chance. But you should have no cause to be ashamed of me. The strength of a chain is no greater than its weakest link, and the greatness of a poet is the greatness of his greatest moment. Shakespeare used to get drunk. Frederick the Great ran away from battle. It was what they could rise to, not what they could sink to, that made them great. They weren't good always, but they made good on their day. Well, on my day, mind you, I'm good for something too. I know that I've made a silly exhibition of myself here. I know I didn't rise to the occasion. I know that if you'd been my mother, you'd been ashamed of me, and I lost my presence of mind. I was a contemptible coward, but I'm not a man I was then. This is my day. I've seen the 10th professor of a foolish face carried out kicking and screaming by a woman. You crowded pretty big over me. You hypnotized me, but when you were put through the fire yourself, you were found wanting. I tell you straight, I don't give a damn for you.
No, that's naughty. You shouldn't say that before me.
I would cut out my tongue sooner than to say anything vulgar in your presence, for I regard you with respect and affection. I was not swearing, I was affirming my manhood.
What an idea. What puts all these things into your head?
Oh, don't you think because I'm a clerk that I'm not one of the intellectuals? I'm a reading man, a thinking man. I read in a book, a high-class 6-shilling book, this precept. Affirm your manhood. It appealed to me. I've always remembered it. I believe it. I feel I must do it to recover your respect after my cowardly behaviour. Therefore, I affirm it in your presence. I tell that man who insulted me that I don't give a damn for him, and neither do I.
I say, Summerhaze, did you have chaps of this sort in Genghis Khan?
Oh, yes, they exist everywhere. They are a most serious modern problem.
Yes, you're right. I'm a problem. And I tell you that when we clerks realise that we're problems, well, look out. That's all.
You read a good deal, don't you?
I've read more than any man in this room, if the truth were known, I expect. That's what's going to smash up your capitalism. The problems are beginning to read. Ha! We're free to do that here in England. What would you do with me in Genghis Khan if you had me there?
Well, since you ask me so directly, I'll tell you. I should take advantage of the fact that you have neither sense enough nor strength enough to know how to behave yourself in a difficulty of any sort. I should warn an intelligent and ambitious policeman that you are a troublesome problem. The intelligent and ambitious policeman would take an early opportunity of settling your temper by ordering you to move on and treading on your heels until you're provoked into obstructing an officer in the discharge of his duty. Any trifle of that sort would be sufficient to make a man like you lose your self-possession and put yourself in the wrong. You would then be charged and imprisoned until things quieted down.
And you call that justice?
No, justice is not my business. I had to govern the province, and I took the necessary steps to maintain order in it. Men are not governed by justice, but by law or persuasion. When they refuse to be governed by law or persuasion, they have to be governed by fraud or force or both. I used both when law and persuasion failed me. Every ruler of men since the world began has done so, even when he has hated both fraud and force as heartily as I do. It is as well that you should know this, my young friend, so that you may recognize in time that anarchism is a game at which the police can beat you. What have you to say to that?
What have I to say to it? Well, I call it scandalous. That's what I have to say to it.
Precisely. That's all anybody has to say to it, except the British public, which pretends not to believe it. And now, let me ask you a sympathetic personal question. Haven't you a headache?
Well, since you ask me, I have. I've overexcited myself.
Poor lad. No wonder after all you've gone through. You want to eat a little and to lie down. You come with me. I want you to tell me about your poor dear mother and about yourself. Come along with me.
Thank you kindly, ma'am. Mind, I'm not knuckling down to any man here. I knuckle down to Mrs. Tarleton, because she's a woman in 1,000. I affirm my manhood all the same. Understand, I don't give a damn for the lot of you.
Oh, thank goodness he's gone. What a bore. What a bore. Talk, talk, talk.
Patsy, it's no good. We're going to talk, and we're going to talk about you.
It's no use shirking it, Pat. We'd better know where we are.
Come, Miss Tarleton, won't you sit down? I'm very tired of standing. We shall now get to the change of subject we are all pining for.
What's that?
The great question. The question that men and women will spend hours over without complaining. The question that occupies all the novel readers and all the playgoers. The question they never get tired of.
But what question?
The question which particular young man some young woman will mate with.
As if it mattered.
What's that you said?
I said as if it mattered!
I call that ungentlemanly.
Oh, do you care about that? You who are so magnificently unladylike?
Look here, Mr. Percival, you're not supposed to insult my sister.
Oh, shut up, Johnny. I can take care of myself. Don't you interfere.
Oh, very well. If you choose to give yourself away like that, to allow a man to call you unladylike and then be unladylike, I've nothing more to say.
I think Mr. Percival is most ungentlemanly, but I won't be protected. I'll not have my affairs interfered with by men on the pretense of protecting me. I'm not your baby. If I interfered between you and a woman, you would soon tell me to mind my own business.
Children, don't squabble. Read Dr. Watts. Behave yourselves.
I've nothing more to say, and as I don't seem to be wanted here, I shall take myself on.
Summer Hayes, family is an awful thing, an impossible thing, cat and dog. Patsy, I'm ashamed of you.
I'll make it up with Johnny afterwards, but I really can't have him here sticking his clumsy hoof in my affairs.
The question is, Mr. Percival, are you really a gentleman or are you not?
Was Napoleon really a gentleman or was he not? He made the lady get out of the way of the porter and said, "Respect the burden, madam." That was behaving like a very fine gentleman. But he kicked Volney for saying that what France wanted was the Bourbons back again. Oh, that was behaving rather like a navvy. Now I, like Napoleon, am all one piece. Am not all one piece. On occasion, as you have all seen, I can behave like a gentleman. On occasion, I can behave with a brutal simplicity which Miss Tarleton herself can hardly surpass.
Gentleman or no gentleman. Patsy, what are your intentions?
My intentions? Surely it's the gentleman who should be asked his intentions.
Come now, Patsy. None of that nonsense. Has Mr. Percival said anything to you that I ought to know or that Bentley ought to know? Have you said anything to Mr. Percival?
Mr. Percival chased me through the heather and kissed me.
As a gentleman, Mr. Percival, what do you say to that?
As a gentleman, I do not kiss and tell. As a mere man, a mere cad, if you like, I say that I did so at Miss Tarleton's own suggestion.
Beast!
I don't deny that I enjoyed it, but I did not initiate it, and I began by running away.
So Patsy can run faster than you, can she?
Yes. When she is in pursuit of me, she runs faster and faster. I run slower and slower. And these woods of yours are full of magic. There was a confounded fern owl. Did you ever hear the chirr of a fern owl? Did you ever hear it create a sudden silence by ceasing? Did you ever hear it call its mate by striking its wings together twice and whistling that single note that no nightingale can imitate? That is what happened in the woods when I was running away. So I turned, and the pursued became the pursuer.
I had to fight like a wild cat.
Please don't tell us this. It's not fit for old people to hear.
Come, how did it end?
It's not ended yet.
How's it going to end?
Ask him.
How's it going to end, Mr. Percival?
I can't afford to marry, Mr. Tarleton. I've only 1,000 a year until my father dies. Two people can't possibly live on that.
Oh, can't they? When I married, I should have been jolly glad to have felt sure of the quarter of it.
No doubt. But I am not a cheap person, Mr. Tarleton. I was brought up in a household which cost at least 7 or 8 times that, and I am in constant money difficulties because I simply don't know how to live on the 1,000 a year scale. As to ask a woman to share my degrading poverty, it's out of the question. Besides, I'm rather young to marry. I'm only 28.
Papa, buy the brute for me.
Dear Miss Tarleton, don't be so naughty. I know how delightful it is to shock an old man, but there is a point at which it becomes barbarous. Don't. Please don't.
Shall I tell Papa about you?
Tarleton, I'd better tell you that I once asked your daughter to become my widow.
What? Oh, why didn't you accept him, you young idiot?
I was too old.
Oh, this has been going on under my nose, I suppose. You run after young men, old men run after you, and I'm the last person in the world to hear of it?
How could I tell you?
Parents and children, Tarleton.
Oh, the gulf that lies between them, the impassable, eternal gulf. And so I'm to buy the brute for you, eh?
If you please, Papa.
What's the price, Percival?
We might do with another 1,500 if my father would contribute. But I should like more.
It's purely a question of money with you, is it?
Practically, yes. It turns on that.
I thought you might have some sort of preference for Patsy, you know?
Well, but what does that matter, do you think? Patsy fascinates me, no doubt. I apparently fascinate Patsy. But believe me, all that is not worth considering. One of my 3 fathers, the priest, he has married hundreds of couples. Couples selected by one another, couples selected by their parents, couples forced to marry one another by circumstances of one kind or another. And he assures me that if marriages were made by putting all the men's names in one sack and the women's names in another, and having them taken out by a blindfolded child like lottery numbers, there would be just as high a percentage of happy marriages as we have here in England. He said Cupid was nothing but the blindfolded child. Pretty idea, that, I think. I shall have as good a chance with Patsy as with anyone else. Mind, I'm not bigoted about it. I'm not a doctrinaire, not the slave of a theory. You and Lord Summerhays are experienced married men. If you can tell me of any trustworthy method of selecting a wife, I shall be happy to make use of it. I await your suggestions. Apparently neither of you has anything to suggest. Then Patsy will do as well as another, provided the money is forthcoming.
Oh, you beauty, you beauty.
When I married Patsy's mother, I was in love with her.
For the first time?
Yes, for the first time.
For the last time?
You are in the presence of his daughter.
Oh, don't mind me. I don't care. I'm accustomed to Papa's adventures.
Patsy, my child, that was not delicate.
Well, Papa, you've never shown any delicacy in talking to me about my conduct, and I really don't see why I shouldn't talk to you about yours. It's such nonsense. Do you think young people don't know?
I'm sure they don't feel. Tarleton, this is too horrible, too brutal. If neither of these young people have any...
Shall we say paternal sentimentality? I'm extremely sorry to shock you, but you must remember that I've been educated to discuss human affairs with 3 fathers simultaneously. But I'm an adult person. Patsy is an adult person. You do not inspire me with veneration. Apparently, you do not inspire Patsy with veneration. That may surprise you. It may pain you. I'm sorry. It can't be helped. What about the money?
You don't inspire me with generosity, young man.
He had you there, Joey.
I haven't been a bad father to you, Patsy.
I don't say you have, dear. If only I could persuade you, I've grown up. We should get along perfectly.
Do you remember Bill Burt?
Why?
Bill Burt was a laborer here. I was going to sack him for kicking his father. I said his father had kicked him until he was big enough. He said his father had kicked him till he was big enough to kick back. Patsy begged him off. I asked that man what it felt like the first time he kicked his father and found that it was just like kicking any other man. He laughed and said it was the old man that knew what it felt like. Think of that, Summersby. Huh? Think of that.
I haven't kicked you, Papa.
You kicked me harder than Bill Burt ever kicked.
It's no use, Tarleton. Spare yourself. Do you seriously expect these young people at their age to sympathize with what this gentleman calls your paternal sentimentality?
Is it nothing to you but paternal sentimentality, Patsy?
Well, I greatly prefer your superabundant vitality, Papa.
Hold your tongue, you young devil. The young are all alike. Hard, coarse, shallow, cruel, selfish, dirty-minded. You can clear out of my house as soon as you can coax him to take you, and the sooner the better. First of all, I think you said your price was $1,500 a year. Here, take it, huh? Take it, and I wish you the joy of your bargain.
If you wish to know who I am...
I don't care a tinker's curse who you are, or what you are. You're willing to take that girl off my hands for $1,500 a year? That's all that concerns me. Tell her who you are if you like. It's her affair, not mine.
Don't answer him, Joey. It won't last. Lord Summerhays, I'm sorry about Bentley, but Joey's the only man for me.
It may...
Please don't say it may break your poor boy's heart. It's much more likely to break yours.
Oh.
Leave the room. Leave the room. Do you hear? Just leave the room.
Aren't we getting a little cross? Don't be angry, Mr. Tarleton. Read Marcus Aurelius!
Don't you dare make fun of me. Now take your aeroplane out of my vinery and yourself out of my house.
I'm afraid I shall have to dine at the Beacon, Patsy.
Do. I'll dine with you.
Did you hear me tell you to leave the room?
I did. You see what living with one's parents means, Joey. It means living in a house where you can be ordered to leave the room. I've got to obey. It's his house, not mine.
Who pays for it? Go and support yourself as I did if you want to be independent.
I wanted to, and you wouldn't let me. How can I support myself when I'm a prisoner?
Hold your tongue.
Keep your temper.
Lord Summerhays, you'll join me, I'm sure, in pointing out to both father and daughter that they have now reached the very common stage in family life, at which anything but a blow would be an anticlimax. Do you seriously want to beat Patsy, Mr. Tarleton?
Yes, I want to thrash the life out of her. And if she doesn't get out of my reach, I'll do it.
Oh, if you want to beat me just to relieve your feelings, just really and truly for the fun of it and the satisfaction of it, beat away. I don't grudge you that.
I think this sort of thing went on in other families, but it never could happen in ours. But now, I can't say the right thing. I can't do the right thing. I don't know what's the right thing. I'm beaten, and she knows it, Summersby. Tell me what to do. Summerhays.
When my counsel in Genghis Khan reached the point of coming to blows, I used to adjourn the sitting. Let us postpone this discussion. Wait until Monday. We shall have Sunday to quiet down in. Believe me, I'm not making fun of you, but I think there's something in this young gentleman's advice. Read something.
Yes, I'll read King Lear.
Don't. I'm very sorry, dear.
You're not. You're laughing at me. Serves me right. Parents and children. No man should know his own child. No child should know its own father. Let the family be rooted out of civilization. Let the human race be brought up in institutions.
Oh, yes, how jolly. You and I might be friends then, and Joey could stay to dinner.
Let him stay to dinner. Let him stay for breakfast. Let him spend his life here. Don't you say I drove him out. Don't you say I drove you out.
I really have no right to inflict myself on you. Dropping in, as I did.
Yes, out of the sky, huh? Dropping in, the new sport of aviation. You see a nice house, drop in, scoop up the man's daughter, and off you go again.
Bentley comes back with his shoulders hanging as if he'd been exercised in the last pitch of fatigue.
I'm sorry for making a fool of myself. I beg your pardon, Hypatia. I'm awfully sorry, but I've made up my mind that I shall never marry.
Oh, how nice of you, Bentley. Of course, you guessed I wanted to marry Joey. What did the Polish lady do to you?
I'd rather not speak of her, if you don't mind.
You've fallen in love with her.
It's beastly of you to laugh.
You're not the first to fall today under the lash of that young lady's terrible derision, Bentley.
Mr. Percival, can we get the aeroplane started again? I must get out of this and into the air, right up into the blue.
Impossible, the frame's twisted. The petrol has given out. That's what brought us down. And how can we get a clear run to start with among these woods?
We can straighten the frame. We can buy petrol at the beacon. With a few laborers, we can get her out onto the Portsmouth Road and start her like that.
But why do you want to leave us, Ms.
Old pal, this is a stuffy house. You seem to think of nothing but making love. All of the conversation here is about making love. All the pictures are about making love. The eyes of you are all sheep's eyes. You are steeped in it, soaked in it. The very texts on the walls of your bedrooms are the ones about love. It is disgusting. It is not healthy. Your women are kept idle and dressed up for no other purpose than to be made love to. I have not been here an hour, and already everybody makes love to me as if because I am a woman, it were my profession to be made love to. First you, old pal. I forgave you because you were nice about your wife.
Oh! Papa!
Then you, Lord Summerhays, come to me, and all you have to say to me is to ask not to mention that you made love to me in Vienna 2 years ago. I forgave you because I thought you were an ambassador, and all ambassadors make love and are very nice and useful people who travel. Then this young gentleman, he is engaged to this young lady, but no matter for that. He makes love to me because I carry him off in my arms when he cries. All these I bore in silence. But now comes your Johnny and tells me I'm a ripping fine woman and asks me to marry him. I, Lena Szczepanowska, marry him. I do not mind this boy. He is a child. He loves me. I should have to give him money and take care of him. That would be foolish, but honorable. I do not mind you, old pal. You are what we call an old oof. But you do not offer to buy me. You say, until we are tired, until you are so happy that you dare not ask for more. That is foolish too at your age, but it is an adventure. It is not dishonorable. I do not mind Lord Summerhays. It was in Vienna. They had been toasting him at a great banquet. He was not sober. This is bad for your health, but it is not dishonorable. But your Johnny, your Johnny, with his marriage, he will do the straight thing by me. He will give me a home, a position. He tells me I must know that my present position is not one for a nice woman. This, to me, Lena Szczepanowska, I am an honest woman. I earn my living. I am a free woman. I live in my own house. I am a woman of the world. I have thousands of friends. Every night, crowds of people applaud me, delight in me, buy my picture, pay hard-earned money to see me. I am strong. I am skillful. I am brave. I am independent. I am unbought. I am all that a woman ought to be, and my family, there has not been a single drunkard for 4 generations. And this Englishman, this live-in raper, he dares to come to me and ask me to come and live with him in his rabbit hutch and take my bread from his hand and ask him for pocket money and wear soft clothes and be his woman, his wife. Sooner than that, I would stoop to the lowest depths of my profession. I would stuff lions with food and pretend to tame them. I would deceive honest people's eyes with conjuring tricks instead of real feats of strength and skill. I would be a clown and set bad examples of conduct to little children. I would sink yet lower and be an actress or an opera singer, imperiling my soul by the wicked lie of pretending to be somebody else. All this I would do rather than take my bread from the hand of a man and make him the master of my body and soul. And so, you may tell your Johnny to buy an English woman. He shall not buy Lena Szczepanowska. And I will not stay in the house where such dishonor is offered me. Adieu.
You won't mention our little conversation, Miss Szczepanowska, will you? It'll do no good, and I'd rather you didn't.
We've just heard about it, Johnny.
Oh, is that so?
The cat's out of the bag, Johnny, about everybody. They were all beforehand with you. Papa, Lord Summerhaze, Bentley and all. Don't let them laugh at you.
Well, there's no use my pretending to be surprised at you, Governor, is there? I hope you got it as hot as I did. Mind, Miss Szczepanowska, it wasn't lost on me. I'm a thinking man. I kept my temper. You'll admit that.
Oh, yes. I do not quarrel. You are what is called a chump, but you are not a bad sort of chump.
Thank you. Well, if a chump may have an opinion, I should put it at this. You make, I suppose, £10 a night off your own bat, Miss Lena?
£10 a night? I have made £10 a minute.
Have you indeed? I didn't know. Oh, you'll excuse my mistake, I hope. But the principle is the same. Now, I trust you won't be offended at what I'm going to say, but I've thought about this and I've watched it in daily experience. And you may take it from me that the moment a woman becomes pecuniarily independent, she gets hold of the wrong end of the stick in moral questions.
Indeed. And what do you conclude from that, Mr. Johnny?
Well, obviously that independence for women is wrong and shouldn't be allowed. For their own good, you know, for the good of morality in general. You agree with me, Lord Summerhaze, don't you?
It's a very moral, if I may so express myself.
Don't make too much noise. The lad's asleep.
Chickabiddy, we have some news for you.
Oh, now there's no need, you know, Governor, to worry Mother with everything that passes.
What's been going on? Don't you hold anything back from me, John? What have you been doing?
Bentley isn't going to marry Patsy.
Of course not. Is that your great news? I never believed she'd marry him.
Well, there's something else. Mr. Percival here.
Are you going to marry Patsy?
Patsy is going to marry me. With your permission.
Oh, she has my permission. She ought to have been married long ago.
Mother!
Miss Lena here, although she's been so short a time with us, has inspired a good deal of attachment in, I may say, in almost all of us. Therefore, I hope she'll stay to dinner and not insist on flying away in an aeroplane.
You must stay, Miss Szczepanowska. I can't go up again this evening.
I've seen you work it. Do you think I require any help? And Bentley shall come with me as passenger.
Go up in an aeroplane? I daren't.
You must learn to dare.
All right. I'll come.
No, Bentley, it's impossible. I shall not allow it.
You want to kill the child? He shan't go.
I will. I'll lie down and yell until you let me go. I'm not a coward. I will not be a coward.
Miss Szczepanowska, my son is very dear to me. I implore you to wait until tomorrow morning.
There may be a storm tomorrow, and I'll go. Storm or no storm, I must risk my life tomorrow.
I hope there will be a storm.
You are trembling.
Yes, it's terror. Sheer terror. I can hardly see. I can hardly stand. But I'll go with you.
You shall. I like you, my boy. We go tomorrow. together.
Yes, together, tomorrow.
Well, sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Read the old book.
Is there anything else?
Well, I suppose there's nothing more to be said.
Thank goodness.
Curtain. The end. Okay, thanks everybody. So we're clocking in at about 2 hours and 57 minutes. Still short of Hamlet and Richard the Third, but it's a long one. It's a play that gets exhausted of itself, and I think you guys all did a wonderful job powering through this.
Doing it without an intermission?
Oh my, can you imagine? Yeah, can you imagine doing this without an intermission? So this is it. I really like this play. There's so much good stuff in it, but there's so much stuff in it that I think it's a real challenge to do this sitting at our computers, staring at each other in boxes. And I want to say great job, everybody. And I think you all deserve a round of applause from myself, from yourselves.
Thanks, buddy.
I believe Paul's probably still here. Mona had to go, who's hosting this. So I don't know how much longer we can stay here, but feel free to stay and chat about what's going on, but it was a long one. So if you want to out.
Usually can stay and chat a little if we want to.
Hopefully, yeah.
I'm going to run.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you. Nice work, everybody.
Thank you, Mick.
The show, Steve.
We are still live, so watch your name.
I think that is in the position of the host, which I am not.
It'll say when it's off. It'll give us a message. But right now, everybody keep your best behavior on because
everything you say is being recorded.
John Q. Public is watching.
And streamed on the internet, yes?
It's streamed on the internet. No one has to watch it if they don't want to, but
You still there? Clinton?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm here.
David? No, he's here.
I'm here.
For a second, if he's still there, but I guess he isn't, so I'll have to.
He's there. He's talking to you right now.
Hi.
Clinton, are you by any chance available a week from tomorrow?
Let me check my schedule.
Ask for a date. Do it in private.
Don't cast people in other people's presences, David.
I have a problem that it's a